Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Co-optional Podcast here on the 19th of September 2017.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
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 There's still lawnmowers outside, so if we keep singing like that, a kind of barbershop quartet sort of thing, they might eventually go away through embarrassment.
I can't hear 'em.
I'm good. Glad about that. You know, I'm glad that is not being picked up.
Mr. Lawnmower.
Mr. Lawnmower.
There we go. We're good.
Mr. Lawnmower, will you fuck off please and go somewhere else?
Taking it on the road. Let's do it.
I know it's a
Sorry,
job,
TB.
but I hate you.
We found our calling. We're out of here.
I think you should drive it off a cliff. Oh dear. This episode of the Co-optional Podcast is brought to you by Hazing Lawnmowers and also Audible, an Amazon company. Audible.com/cynical is the place that you want to go to get yourself a free audiobook and trial to the Audible service, which is full of audiobooks. In fact, the largest library of audiobook content in the world. We'll be giving you some recommendations a little bit later on in the show as to some of the things that we have been listening to over the week. Very good. Always love to be plugging some books, plugging some Audible.
Yep, I love plug-in books.
Ooh, I just realized my ooh sounds like the alarm in Star Wars. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
No, I don't think most of the alarms sound like that.
Yep, that's the Star Wars alarm.
I don't remember that sound specifically. Maybe
No.
something
Run,
adjacent
Jyn Orso,
to
run.
it.
Run.
No.
All right.
They're coming for you. You have to get the plans to the rebellion. Woo!
Oh my god! So we watched because we were
Oh,
at
yeah!
JP's. We were at JP's to film a live roleplay show this weekend, and we all watched Rogue One. Well, I fell asleep halfway through it because I was exhausted, but we all watched
it's
Rogue
also
One.
boring. So.
And it turns out if you have one of the, is it like a specific R2D2?
I don't know what they've done with the firmware, but I think there's a specific R2D2, a specific BB-8, and the new droid, the little evil BB-8, whatever the hell his name is.
Yeah.
They react to the movies now, and so we had R2D2 with us
Like the
in
little
the room,
robot ones that you can get. Yeah.
That's funny.
and he reacted to the movie. And like when the Death Star first showed up, he was like, "Wow!" And like, it was great. Everything about it was so cute. We were like.
Every time a character showed up, he'd be like, "Wee wee." It's like, oh.
I imagine that would be
God.
interesting the first time and then get very annoying.
No, but he
always
doesn't do
good.
it all the time. Like there's very key moments when there's like nothing happening on the screen where he'll do something, so it doesn't like interfere with the movie. But like,
Is it just the audio that it's picking up on, and then
I have no
gonna
clue
assume
how
so.
it works. I
Not
assume
sure.
like because he'll like move his little head and like look around if something crazy's happening on the screen, or like little colors in his head will blink. And
Yeah. Aurelian made sure that he was like pointing at the TV, and I don't
Sure.
know if that's something that you have to do, is like point them facing the TV.
well,
but
what does the robot do? Does it like respond to visual cues or audio? It's
We
just by
Oh.
default.
No,
it
because
responds to like all of it.
Okay.
Well, here's the thing though, right? Because we were talking about this later, is that he reacted to Vader before Vader actually showed
Yeah.
up.
Well, what happened? Because it's that scene where all the guys, you know, the good scene, everyone's like, oh, we gotta get out of here. And it shows the image of the dark hallway. And before the lightsaber ignites, R2's like, wow, and it goes, and we were like, oh, R2 knew what was up. And so, like, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you what it reacts to. But, like, I was like, that's the kind of technology I fucking want.
It's almost
That's
certainly
useful.
audio cues.
It's
so-
novel. That'd be funny to
It
experience.
was really cute. Yeah, we were
Yeah.
talking about it like the whole time we were there. We were like, remember how cute R2 is?
We were messing around with the Rifftrax app the last couple of days because we decided, hey, we're going to do the Twilight Marathon with Rifftrax. And we've watched
Nice.
the first two. And
Amazing.
it's the only way you can possibly watch those movies. Like, it is very,
All the time in the world, TV.
oh
All the
god,
time in the world.
it's that's so bad. But and we also decided to watch Titanic for some reason with that. And like, I'm sorry, Rifftrax can't save that movie. That movie's 3 hours 15 minutes. That is too fucking long for anything. But their app on iOS now syncs everything up for you. So before you had to download their MP3. And they had like a sync up thing where it's like 3, 2, 1, now hit the thing, and then they have a line like every 10 minutes throughout the movie to make sure you know how to sync. But the app just does full audio recognition regardless of where you are in the movie. So, like, we resumed halfway through, and the app picked it up in about 20 seconds and synced it right back up again.
Oh my god, that's so convenient.
Yeah, it definitely makes them very playable. It's especially important now that everything's on Netflix and it's not just a DVD player and shit. So you just we just AirPlay it on one of on my wife's iPad or on the Apple TV, and then I use mine as like the speaker and just do it from there. It's great. Rifftrax is very, very funny and certainly worth watching movies with again. Although, just don't watch it with a movie that you thought was good and you watched about 10 years ago, because you will end up realizing it's not good as a result.
No.
What movie was this?
I mean, episode 1, when I first saw it, was at least a little bit enjoyable, but even watching it back with the Rifftrax is like, this is actually the worst movie that exists, isn't it? This is really terrible.
No one can ever ruin the pod racing scenes in that movie for me.
Oh, they can. They totally can, trust me. They definitely did. But yeah, we've been going through a lot of those. I'm not sure if it's still free right now, but the second Twilight's Rifftrax right now is currently free on their app. So
the Twilight Rifftrax are
they're the best.
Hilarious.
They're very
so
funny. Because obviously the movies are just fucking terrible, but it leaves them a lot of space, mostly because nobody ever finishes a fucking sentence to make the jokes.
I can't. Oh my god!
I'm sorry. Is this your best Twilight impression? Is it?
Yeah.
Can't get through a sentence. Yeah.
TB.
Bite your lip. Bite your lower lip. Blank look. Blank look. Do it. There you go. There you go. Perfect, Cousin Stewart. Excellent.
And now I'm just wondering, a vampire.
Yes.
Are
yes,
you?
There we go. Yes,
vampire?
You can see. I'm sparkling. Sparkling right now.
No. Somebody had to be next to you going, say it out loud. Unicorn?
Also, my conclusion after that second movie is you're all fucking idiots, and Jacob is the only sensible person in this movie, and you should all go fuck off and die and leave Jacob alone because you're making him horribly miserable.
Yeah,
I've heard about that shit. Oh god.
Yeah, Jacob's about as sensible as any person who would fall in love with a baby.
It's so fucking terrible. Oh my god. Jesus Christ.
You're right. No, yeah. Yep, he's the one.
He's the one. He's so smart.
I said from the very start, I was Team Tyler's van. Like, I wish that Tyler had run over Bella in the first movie. And just nothing had ever happened.
Oh, God.
Oh, what a shame. What a shame. Oh, God. Well, it's a Co-Optional Podcast. We do occasionally talk about video games and Rifftrax, which is awesome. Check out rifftrax.com. And if they do a Rifftrax at your cinema, because they're doing a lot more in movie theaters nationwide, go watch it. Oh, it's so good. We got to see Starship Troopers with a cinema full of people, and it was a great experience because everyone was just laughing their asses off. It was really good. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out for that. And also Amazon Prime, which of course you can use your Twitch Prime sub to get free subscriptions to anybody in this room, has a few of their B movies automatically synced up that you can watch for free. So like, you want to watch some really bad B movies with Rifftrax, it's right there for free. So go do it.
Amazing.
Yeah, your yawn definitely emphasized how amazing you thought it was.
It sounds so good.
I'm so excited.
Wow.
All right, well, if you're going to be like that, you can start us off. What really exciting things have you been playing this week, Dodger?
I played that game Little Kite that we talked about when we were doing the release list, I think either last week or the week before.
Okay.
That game is fucking depressing.
Right.
That is an extremely depressing game. I was trying to put this into words when I finished it yesterday, but like the way that it did puzzles, because it's a point and click, right?
Yeah.
It's a point and click with like puzzle elements to it. And the way that it tried to put the puzzle elements into the game didn't always make sense. There were so many moments where something really bad was happening, and all of my viewers and I were like, why the fuck are we stopping to do this puzzle? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like that kind of a thing.
There's so many games that do that, but this does not seem like the kind of game where that would be acceptable.
This is definitely a game where I was like, this could make for a good, like, I like the way this looks. It looks beautiful, but like the description literally was enough for me to be like, okay, well, I'm going to pass on this one because like, I don't, As
It was a very
What's that
depressing game.
TLDR for the story? without
The
spoilers?
story is about, I believe it takes place in Ukraine, and it's about a mother and a son, and the dad dies. You find out how he dies in the game, but they've now, like, there's a new man in their life, and he's basically a very abusive drunk.
Oh, nice.
So it's about like the mom and the son. It's like, it's the description, I think, is something like a terrible day in their life or something like that. And so it's just like when a lot of that all comes to a head, basically. And the son, when you play as the son, he kind of like, he kind of takes himself into another world to not be there, you know?
Oh, what was there was another game like that several years back. It was about a similar thing with someone with a rough childhood. It was really cartoony. It was a platformer. I don't know if any of you remember. I can't think of it.
I'm not sure.
Whatever. Anyways,
Limbo?
yeah, okay. But the story
anyway,
was tough to kind of stomach through.
Yeah, it was a very depressing game. The art in it is gorgeous. It was a very depressing game. It was a short game. And I didn't always feel like the puzzles made sense in terms of like, because they obviously were trying very hard to establish like a tone, right? And the tone would be ruined by, well, you got to do all of this garbage in order to like move on to the next part of this game.
It seemed like they shoehorned it in a bit.
Yeah. There wasn't like moon logic really or anything like that. It just felt like, why am I doing all of this tedious shit when something really serious is happening right now? You know? So
it's not the time for a puzzle, boy. Call the police.
It's not the time. Yeah.
Force was the game. Papo and Yo. Yeah, I remember Papo and Yo. I played that a good few years ago. I liked Papo and Yo. It was good.
That hit me right in the feels.
And it just
experience.
It also helped that it was a very good puzzle platformer off the back of that as well.
Oh yeah.
I don't usually like that genre, but I thought Papo and Yo was pretty great.
Cool.
You played anything that wasn't horribly depressing?
Yeah. So right after that, I played The Witch's Isle, which is another game that we saw during the releases.
You're telling me that wasn't depressing?
No, it was awesome.
Okay.
I actually really, really liked this game. I played it long enough to get like the true ending of the game. And the concept of it is that you are living on an island, and the island is ruled by a witch. And you wake up one night and she tells you that an item of hers has been stolen, and that if you don't get it back to her by 4 a.m. the next day, you'll die. So she like curses you. But what's interesting about the game is that you go around and you meet all of the villagers, right? Every single villager is like an achievement kind of in the game. It's like, oh, you met this person. Oh, you met this person. And the reason why it's so important is because you can, with each person that you meet, you can see the island through their eyes. So you can like, if there's a house you can't get into or something, you can see through their eyes as they go into that house, and you can like figure things out that way. The more that you talk with the people, you learn like the lore of the island and why some people love the witch and some people hate the witch. And like, you need to talk to people, of course, to find this item that she's looking for. But the longer that you play, the more things that you uncover. So like finding the urn isn't enough, because the longer that you talk with people, the more you realize like, I might be able to figure out what's going on with this island and save everyone. Because like everybody's cursed. Nobody has a name. Nobody can remember anything. Any person who comes to the island forgets who they are. So like the whole island is fucked up. So it winds up becoming more than just saving yourself. It's about saving the entire island. And it wound up being, I thought it was super cool. For the price, it's like what, $2.99 or something, and I got so much out of this game. Yeah, it's $2.99. It's a great game for $2.99, I think.
It's also available on iOS for those who want to play it on the move.
Hey, well there you go.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, thought that game was great.
All right, so this will be something that Force is certainly interested in. I finally got around to playing some PUBG.
Yeah,
And
why didn't you invite me, by the way? I'm
You weren't
deeply
around at the
hurt.
time, man. I just happened to have a spare like 30 minutes. I thought, let's see what all the fuss is about. So I played like round or two solo, and I was like, oh, that's all right. You know, I'm not massively enamored by it. It was okay. And then I saw Northern Lion was playing with his wife, and Krendo and Gmart were in. I'm like, do you have room for a fifth? Because they'll be doing custom squads with their subs. I thought, hey, this will be a good environment to just mess around in, because you know people will be relatively pleasant, and there won't be any assholes and stuff like that. And you know, it was a lot of not doing much, I have to admit. Like, the 5 of us landed as a squad, and we were driving around, and we drove around for maybe 20 minutes, losing houses.
You played with Northern Lion, so there's your first mistake.
Yeah.
Damn.
You know, it was mostly us arguing with Northern Lion not to run out ahead, and it's like, oh, you stop that, and stop abandoning the goddamn Jeep. We're getting in the car, or we're turning this car around, and we're not going to Disney World. But you know, there were some pretty cool parts of it, and I'm starting to get the idea of why some people are very big into it, and why I don't think I'm going to be big into it. I think this very sort of calm before the storm approach, where you have a very calm element of the game where you're just looting houses, you're being careful, but you know it's relatively peaceful, and then these sudden high action moments kind of out of nowhere, and you know, the calm being punctuated by these really quick kill or be killed moments with high tension and high stakes, and then of course all building towards the big battle at the end for everyone that's left. And I can see why some people would like that. The problem that I've got with it is that I view those the calm before the storm parts as just boring. Like, the game has a lot of downtime, and most people, when I mentioned this, the first thing they said, well, drop into the school or drop into the military base. It's a high action area to start you off. And my reply to that is, yeah, you can do that, but a couple of things is going to happen. One, you get shot in the face 30 seconds into the game, and that's it for you. Second, you survive and you get a couple of kills, and maybe you clear out the area, but then it's the same as what it was previously, because it's wherever the blue area is that you have to go to. So you're still going to get that downtime. And 3, it doesn't seem like you get any advantage from dropping into those areas. Like, there's a reason why the meta is that people hit sort of the outskirts, because they have a higher chance of gearing up to the gear level that you need without getting shot in the head. So you can choose the path of higher resistance for a bit more action, and I think I probably will when I play more solo, but I don't think that solves the pacing problem of the game. Like, because what I imagine myself playing a game like this that has like a hard round timer of 15 minutes, and the map is a lot smaller. And just like at the 15-minute mark, that's when the final showdown is, and anyone that's left, you know, you get geared up, and it's all sort of just taking that almost hour's worth of gameplay where a lot of it is downtime and compressing it down to 15 minutes of action. I would be very into that. And I think they'll probably be, if PUBG doesn't make a speed round mode like that, which I think they probably will, because they've got definitely enough player base to make more queues, right? Like, their player base is massive. Or another company is going to see that hole in the market, and they're going to go there. Because we've seen it before, you know, Heroes
Division,
of the Storm.
You were so fucking close, please.
Oh, God, if they released that as a standalone...
Close.
If they'd released that as a standalone, that would have been so good. You know, Jesse plays a lot of Heroes of the Storm, and I play some of it as well. And Heroes of the Storm matches are generally a lot shorter. And I like that a lot, because...
Unless you're playing that...
Not always.
Stupid cannons. F that.
Yeah, there are some maps that don't, but mostly they're conducive to 15 or so minute games. Tooth and Tail that we've been playing recently. I've been playing with a bunch of StarCraft players. I taught Nathanius how to play last night, and holy shit. They're all really getting into it. It's like, wow, I get the RTS experience in a really compact, short match. And if I lose, I'm not so concerned, because I am just immediately willing to re-queue and try again. With PUBG, I find myself less willing to drop in again after a loss, especially a long game, because I'm like, oh, that was 40 minutes of that. I'm not really willing to maybe commit to another 40. Same reason kind of why I don't play Dota anymore. So that's my, it's a very subjective concern with it, and I don't hate the game at all. It's definitely got some really cool moments, and the gun sounds are super good. The car sounds are derpy as shit. Holy fuck. They sound really bad. But the gun sounds are really good. The way the guns handle is really enjoyable.
Volume balance is a little bit messy in that game.
Yeah.
For the car and the plane and rain, especially.
There's a good amount of variety in loot. I like that too. but the pacing is off for my personal tastes.
So I was trying to figure out what it was about PUBG that kind of, not a lot of games hit home for me, and PUBG was definitely one that has. And even now, even after taking like a couple week break, and I went back yesterday and I played with Benji and Krendor again, and I immediately was sucked right back in. I was like, I can't wait to keep playing more.
Mm-hmm.
I think something that they do that isn't replicated a lot in multiplayer games is that every match is different. And I know it's like a very cliche term that gets used often, like every match is different, but really in PUBG, it's highlighted so much more compared to most other multiplayer games that are a relatively, like, how you actually play and your strategy is pretty straightforward in most shooters.
A fairly defined meta. You know, CSGO has a meta, and Rainbow Six has a meta,
right,
depending on map.
But it's also very, like, moment to moment. You're generally on a relatively small map, with the exception of a game like PlanetSide 2 or the Battlefield games or whatever. Yeah. And you're generally doing the same thing. You're running around shooting, but in PUBG, you're not shooting in PUBG, but you can play the game in so many different ways, like dropping in to high population areas. And the reason they're high population areas, just for your knowledge, if you didn't know, is you actually do get an advantage by going to those places because the different towns are seeded with different dice roll opportunities for high tier gear. Yeah. So if you're watching this and you don't play Battlegrounds, it's a mix between like a loot game and a third person or first person shooter. Whereas
definitely
there's
better
tiers
than
of
first
armor
person
and gear.
mode, by the way. Fuck third person. Being able to see behind corners like that. No, in first person, it's a very immersive, very cool game. I play exclusively first person.
I've enjoyed that mode since it was added as well. But like there's tiers of gear, and like a level 3 vest and helmet is significantly better than a level 1 or 2 vest and helmet. And those have a higher chance to drop in certain areas. There's the school, the military base, there's Georgia Pole, there's places. And that's why those are high population areas. So the idea is more people drop there, but it's obviously more dangerous as well because of that. But I think the RNG aspect, which people argue against it in competitive games, but it might make it less like cutting edge competitive, but it also makes it more interesting, I think. And I think
agree.
That's why this game has exploded. And then you add the dice roll of the confined play area with the circle, which changes from game to game.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get a great circle and you're in perfect position in a little nook on top of a hill and you got a great line of sight. Other times the circle's all the fucking way across an open field and you're running like through the firing squad to get there. So I think like all those elements with the circle, choosing if you want to play and have a lot of action early on, or if you just want to camp and sit on the edge of the map all game, hope you make your way to top 10 and then get 1 or 2 kills and win. Like, because the game rewards both play styles in a sense, I just think that's part of the reason why it's become so popular. Because the gameplay isn't like absolutely amazing. The animations are certainly not absolutely amazing.
Oh god, they need some work, yeah.
And they're working on it because they're making plenty of money now, and they're adding new mechanics like vaulting and mantling.
I'll be glad when that comes in. I got stuck on a white picket fence the last game I played. Like, fuck's sake, how can I not get over this?
I just love mantling in games too. I think it adds a lot to it. But I don't know. I think those elements, the RNG, obviously there's the skill-based nature. They struck a balance between more casual and more like Arma realistic style shooting. Yes. I mean, their success speaks for itself, I guess. I guess I was just trying to. I really wanted to figure out why, and I think that's what it is. It's because every game is quite a different experience. So
yeah, I think that random element makes everyone feel like they've all got a shot, and they're right. They kind of do. You know, you may get lucky right off the bat and get some really good gear, and that's very much going to affect your ability to win and be effective. And I do like the fact that you often end up with a new gun with different attachments every time, and you have to adapt to what that is, or you may go searching for your favorite. And the more stuff they add in, the better that's going to get, you know? Add in 60, 70 different guns. Add in 100 guns. Add in 200 fucking guns.
Yeah, they've been adding guns on a fairly regular
more the fucking better. I don't care if they're all minor changes, like, because everyone's got their favorite, right? And it's always super exciting to get something new every time. So go crazy on the arsenal. And I'm less concerned about the competitive side. I hope they don't compromise the game for that. But I think they can very easily make a competitive mode where that stuff is balanced and it won't be a problem. And the rest of us can just fucking ignore that mode completely.
Yeah.
There are enough players for all of that.
I think PUBG aside, I know a lot of like people roll their eyes whenever a game becomes successful like this and complain about the inevitable clones. But I frankly am thrilled to see what especially AAA developers come up with. I know you played a bit of the Division survival with
I did,
TB,
and it was good.
And that game, that was very close. If they had changed a few things, sometimes I wish I could be on design teams or something. If they had changed just a few things, that could have knocked it out of the park. If they released it as a standalone, if it had a bigger player base, if they made it so that only one person could extract, and they have the mechanic in game. It's a fucking blizzard in the middle of New York. Have the circle mechanic of an encroaching death storm to force combat. Like just a few things that would have been really good, but more stuff's coming out. We already see Fortnite fucking battlegrounds. Like,
what I've heard from people is
game.
I know, apparently, we got the announcement of, the DRS, the Battle Royale, and all that kind of thing. Devolver was trolling on that one, I believe. I can't remember.
I play it.
But, they made they had to cancel the Hatful Boyfriend Battle Royale mode.
Oh my God. That tweet was so good.
It was good shit. But, what I've heard from people who have played the Fortnite mode is it's pretty good. But the thing is, I'm not willing to play Fortnite right now because it's a goddamn mess. And it's way undercooked. There's a second game I played this week that was way undercooked, and that was the Smite Tactics game. They're calling it Hand of the Gods now.
Yeah.
It was, oh God, it hit early access. I'm thinking, oh, well, that means, because it was in beta before, that means it's probably more ready for release. I could not have been more wrong. It is completely underbaked.
Well,
it's not going to be ready for months.
They've been working on that game for a while, right? They keep being like, oh, yeah, we're going to release it around this time. And then they can't just get it right. So they keep pushing it.
This is Smite, the high-res IP?
Yes,
they use game?
Yeah, okay. And it's collectible tactics game, and the gameplay pretty good. Like it's quite different to the other tactics games on the market. It's not quite the same as Duelist. It's definitely not the same as Faria, and it's kind of up my alley. But everything about it, half the art is still placeholder. The deck builder is a fucking nightmare to use. If you want to open packs, it takes forever. You can't skip anything. And so I just I streamed it for an hour. I'm like, you know what? I'm coming back in like 6 months. When their deck builder is where it needs to be, when all their placeholder art is sorted out, when their pack opening animations don't take half of my life to watch, when you've got all those little nice quality of life features in that make this worth my time, because I could just go play Faria right now, which is in a way better state than your game is. So I'm not going to waste time with you there.
One last note, I guess, before we move on from Battlegrounds, is I think another reason, it kind of spins off of what I said earlier. I think another reason this game has become so successful so quickly is because it caters to very different play styles. Again, like I mentioned, you can drop in hot and play it like a fast-paced shooter. You can play it like Counter-Strike, just drop in, try to pop headshots left and right. Or you can just play it like a loot game in camp. And that's a big spectrum. Whereas, again, a lot of other shooters, the play style is fairly linear.
My way or the highway.
Yeah, so...
There's also the aspect that a lot of people get kind of scared to queue up for these team-based shooters because they're afraid they'll do it wrong and people will get mad at them. With PUBG, especially since it's primarily, a lot of people play solo, you got... That element isn't there. Like, if you want, and this is the first thing I did, turned voice chat off, and just went in solo and had a pretty good time.
You're missing out on some quality conversations in the plane TV.
And I'm very happy to miss out on them. If I want to talk to people, I'll play as part of a squad with people I actually want to speak to. I'm not going to play with them. I know that there's an element of like role play that some people like to get into, and that's cool, but I don't care about that shit. So you're right. There is a lot of flexibility in the way you can play. And, when I go back to it, I will probably start playing more aggressively, and I'll probably enjoy it a little bit better. I don't think it's going to take over my life in terms of games I'm playing, but it is a good time.
Yeah, let's play. We'll go to school together. It'll be fun.
Indeed. We'll go and slap some people with a frying pan. That's the way to go.
I do think it's interesting because when I play by myself, I'm very much like, I'm just going to hang and go from house to house and pick up the stuff I need and chill. And then once it gets crazy, I'll like get into crazy mode, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if I'm playing with a group, every single group that I play with is totally different. Some people have no plan at all. Some people are like, all right, we need to chase where people are so that we can kill people faster. Other people are like, all right, we need to go in the opposite direction of people so that we can get better loot faster. You know, it's interesting how every single time I play with a group of people, it's completely different. This like the tactics and what they want to do.
It's also exciting because we have like we almost have like a new genre emerging, and this doesn't happen often. You had the Minecraft and then the Minecraft clones. You had Dota and then all of the MOBAs that came after that. Like the Battle Royale. I know it's been done in iterations before, but this specific way it's put together is kind of a new thing, and that's exciting. So
what amazes me is how many before it have kind of fucked up. Like the culling devs have got to be kicking themselves. They had it. They had the next Battle Royale game. They had a massive player base, and then they fucked it up so badly that they killed their whole player base almost overnight. Like, so this, the culling stats, they had a 12,000 concurrent all-time peak. At the start, for the first couple of weeks of the game, that game was doing gangbusters for a small indie team. They then made a change which tanked the whole player base. Everybody hated it, and they've never come back. Currently, there are 17 people playing it. So they missed out on that entirely. But what's interesting under all of this is that as much as people try to keep mocking it, H1Z1 King of the Kill continues to pop in and out of the top 10 a lot. Right now, it isn't, but I think it's because the Chinese are quite into it. Currently, there's 35,000 people playing King of the Kill. Regularly, the peak at 24 hours is 57,000 to 60,000. That's still a shit ton of people. That puts you in the top 5 of Steam. So H1Z1 is definitely not dead. It's obviously doing something right. The question is, I don't think they're going to ever pull that back, but it is good to have at least a competitor of some sort to PUBG that has a big player base, so that if PUBG fucks up badly, then people can have something to migrate back to. So I do want to see more Battlegrounds games. Like I said, if someone could make a good Battlegrounds game that is basically a 15-minute game, smaller map, I would be definitely into it. And maybe a different kind of theme. We had that idea about the Pokemon Battle Royale game, where you start off as a Pokemon trainer with no Pokemon, and you've got to go catch the Pokemon, and then you fight the other trainers on the map. Like, there's so many opportunities for that. There's quite a few. I think Warhammer 40,000 Necromunda would be a really good setting for one. Or Mordheim.
Any fantasy battle royale would be
a
awesome.
fantasy battle
with,
royale,
knights and wizards and shit.
Yeah, we definitely don't have that yet. That would be really good. Some people suggested Star Wars, but for me, that doesn't really make sense. Like, the thing about a battle royale is you've got to progress from one part, from I got nothing other than the shirt on my back to I am a fucking juggernaut with lots of weapons. The question is, can you do that within a Star Wars theme and make it logically sensible? Because if you can't, I think that most people are just kind of wasting their time. We'll see, though. There'll definitely be more Battle Royale games. There's no question about that. This genre is not going anywhere.
I'm excited for that, for sure. Like, I want to see what big dev teams do, because you get that extra level of polish, just in animations and gunplay a lot of times. So, you were talking about player base earlier with the culling. Speaking of player base, what the fuck happened with Lawbreakers? Like, I just heard the other day that they have like 20 concurrent players or something.
We talked about this a couple of times as to what the hell happened with Lawbreakers, but our conclusion just seems to be they released a $30 shooter in a very saturated market on PC, and they didn't market it properly, and what they were offering didn't take. And I continue to insist that a lot of the reason is down to very poor tutorials, meaning that people didn't understand the main key mechanics of the game, so they ended up not enjoying it. And that is entirely Lawbreakers' fault.
It's too bad.
Yeah, I think like the online bashing of it is excessive, and I feel sorry for Cliffy B. He did a recent interview. It's like, this game is my baby. I have to save it. I'm like, these guys worked really hard on it, and there's some really good parts of Lawbreakers, but you got to swallow your pride. You got to free to play that shit right now, and you've got to really change your thinking when it comes to teaching people how to play it.
That was Boss Key's first release, wasn't it?
Yeah,
they made Boss Key just for that game, and then a good showing. It's too bad.
All right, Jesse, what have you been playing?
Yo, thank God. Boy, do I not care about PUBG. Okay.
Come on.
Has Krendor been harassing you to play it? Because I know he's been harassing me for weeks on PUBG.
No, because he knows I will not play that.
He knows Jesse will never, ever play it.
I don't give a fuck about that game. All right. God. First off, the Dishonored 2 DLC dropped.
Yes, it did. Yep. Death of an
Death of the
Outsider. Yep.
I'm gonna say, I think maybe it's just me, maybe it's the way they develop games, but this DLC had, or expansion or whatever you want to call it, standalone.
Expandalone, I think they're calling it.
Had the exact same storytelling mentality of the first expansion for Witcher 3, Hearts of Stone, where it was like story first, then maybe a few new things, but we're gonna tell you a solid story. And so that's what this is. It's they're reusing levels from Dishonored 2. They feel a little bit more dense, and it can be both good and bad, depending on how you like to play. But for some reason, the way they've designed Rosario Dawson, aka Billy Lurk, is her abilities are more sneaking and planning based rather than running in and murdering people. And so it feels like it's more catered towards me and not everyone else who plays this game, apparently, because I don't know how you would play it as Rosario Dawson. But anyway, you don't have an underpowered, like, in all these games you start out like underpowered and then like you have to get your abilities. That doesn't happen. You start out with everything. You can tweak the abilities you have. But yeah, like I said, it's about planning, where you have abilities to like see the pathing of enemies, and you can access almost every part of a level. Your mana bar fills automatically, so you don't need potion like vials and shit to fill yourself back up. And yeah, truthfully, I think the story is better than both Dishonored 2 and Dishonored 1.
Really?
Like, it's story heavy. With that said, it's about half the time of Dishonored 2. So maybe 8 hours total if you do every exploration. If you do just go through the game, I imagine it'll be 4 hours.
My impression,
everything, it's maybe 8.
My impression seems to be that it's like comparable to Burial at Sea for BioShock. Would you say that that's accurate?
Yeah. I think it's very, it like fits exactly what I want in a game, where it tells a solid story and has gameplay that doesn't try to like fucking change too much, and is in a world that I'm familiar with. So I'm like, I know what this and this and this is. And it's definitely a good send off to the franchise if they don't make another, because I know Dishonored 2 didn't do too well. So, yeah, I hope we get more, but I think this might be it. So far so good. I'm really impressed with the fact that everything is like slimmed down. Billy only has 3 abilities, maybe 4. I haven't beaten it yet, so I don't know. But 3 abilities, you can tweak and change them, but you don't have a lot to work with. There are only 3 main characters in this story: Billy, Dowd, and the Outsider. And there's like all the levels are being reused, but they're reused in a way that's like new pathing, and there's more stuff there now, and you have to be a little more clever about how you get through things. But everything is it's a very sleek version of Dishonored 2 for what it was. There was a lot of fluff and a lot of garbage that like was not needed. And
right.
At the end of the day, when you beat it, you were like, well, that didn't explain shit in the story. Like, they had so much to work with, and it didn't give us anything new. Like, it was like, oh, well, we're going to reuse a character from the last DLC, which I will say, going back to Dishonored 1, the DLC for Dishonored 1 were great. Those were fantastic stories. So
yes, they were.
I think they've nailed this expansion. Standalone is definitely worth playing if you are a fan of the franchise, but you were like, I don't know. I mean, even if you're not a fan of the franchise, literally, you get to like hang out with a badass one-eyed Rosario Dawson, and oh my god, who's the guy who plays Dowd? I can't remember his name. Michael Madsen, I think. Whatever.
I was about to ask you that question. Let's say someone's never played Dishonored 2. Would you suggest playing this one first or Dishonored 2 first? Real
talk, this is my biggest problem with Dishonored 2. Dishonored 1 is a solid story that gives you like, oh my god, I can't wait to see what's going on with the rest of the world. And then the expansions are about Dowd, who's sort of the like villain in the first one, and about his storyline, about how like what his motivations were. And then you're introduced to this character who's like this evil witch. Literally, Dishonored 2 is, oh, we brought the evil witch back for some fucking reason, even though you defeated her, and the story is about beating her again. And it's like, well, that's not new. None of it's new. It feels very... So literally, you can skip Dishonored 2, and you won't have to give a fuck. Like, Dishonored 2 doesn't matter in contextually when dealing with the death of the outsider, because literally, you've met Dowd and you met Billy from Dishonored 1. And this is their... they're like, there's only one person who caused all this trouble in the world. That's the fucking outsider, and we got to go kill this son of a bitch. And the only thing you need to know is in Dishonored 2, they introduced the possibility that perhaps there's a cult associated with like a physical being that is the outsider. And so Makes that's sense, it. Yeah. And everything else about it, that's my problem with Dishonored 2. Literally nothing fucking happens. It's a non-story. It's like, we've got to go defeat this woman who took the crown from my daughter and or me, and then that's it. It's like a non-story, and it's so infuriating because nothing, like, there is no momentum forward. It's like, well, we've moved a few steps back, and now we're back to where we were at the end of Dishonored 1, except we're now like 10, 20 years later. It's stupid.
That seems like the kind of thing I'd be okay with. I'm not like massively concerned about the ending of stories. Like, I prefer world building and how cool the world feels to me and how enjoyable characters are. So I may, because I still haven't got around to Dishonored 2. It definitely sounds like Dishonored 2 gives you more flexibility in what you can do with your character, and if you don't like the play style of this character in Death of the Outsider, you might have a bad time. But I would have to play it to determine whether or not I'm okay with that play style, whether it's my kind of thing.
Well, also because you're playing as Billy, and Billy is a character who gets her powers from doubt. So you don't have the powers of like someone with the mark of the outsider, like in Dishonored 1 or the Dishonored DLC or Dishonored 2. You're not like a main character. You're playing as the side character from the series. Like this character who's always just like, I'm on your team, Dowd and or Corvo or Emily. Like, she's just there. So you're playing. Well, I think that's kind of cool. So you're basically, you're playing as the nurse from all the Marvel Netflix
Right.
series.
I was just going to say.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that's kind of interesting. Her powers aren't main powers, but she has enough to like, I'm going to fuck people up. I think that's pretty cool. And also because in Dishonored 2, the Billy of Dishonored 2 is a lot different from the Billy of Dishonored 1, like physically. And there's a reason for that without any spoilers, but you can change all that because there's the infamous time travel mechanic in Dishonored 2. This game, nothing's changed, but what they've done is they've added like weird like temporal ripples and stuff where it's like something's wrong with this world. Like it's not supposed to be the real, like it's interesting. There's a lot going on here. And because it's so story heavy, I feel like there's a lot of room for them to, again, Dishonored is a series set up a world where there is a fucking continent that exists way off in the distance that they've sent people to go to, and everyone has come back crazy or dead. It is the biggest, like, what the fuck is happening over there? We'll never see that shit. It exists only to entice you to a thing you'll never get.
Nice.
It's infuriating. Dishonored.
Jesse and Sam and Krender and I all played Divinity Original Sin 2.
Ah, yes, the big kahuna. People have been loving this one. The concurrent player bases on Steam for this are insanely large.
Lots of good reviews too. Like,
people across the board.
Yeah.
Well, I think all of us loved the first Divinity Original Sin.
Yeah, the amount of time I got with it, which wasn't as much as I would have liked.
Sam and I played it a ton when we were long distance. It was like the game that we would play because it was so easy to play it like local or and so the second one is super fun. At launch they had added in, because when we played the beta together, they had like these cool like lizard people that weren't in the original and they added in another one with launch, which was the undead, and you can be an undead version of any of the other races. The undead are super cool. They steal, because no one can ever see your face, so you're basically warned when you choose undead to play. The game warns you, like, you can't let normal people see that you're undead because they'll fucking freak out. Yeah. So you get in like the first story arc, you get what's called a face ripper, and you can take the face of any dead person.
Are you saying you can take the face off?
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I already love it.
And apply the face to yourself.
Yeah.
Face
Game of Thrones shit.
Oh God, I love that already.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So you either have to rip faces and put them on you, or you have to always wear like hoods and things. Those work too. You just can never be showing bone because you're literally a skeleton. So you always have to be wearing like full armor, full everything to make sure that you're hiding yourself.
It has reverse healing, so poison heals you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Like food, you can't eat food. You have to eat poison food or like old food. And the enemies of the game, if they have the ability to heal or have items that heal, will try to heal you.
They'll heal you.
Huh.
The AI is really smart with that. Yeah.
God, I love games that do shit like that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I remember Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, where if you played the Nosferatu, you literally just couldn't be seen. Like you had the whole game was completely different because you had to spend most of your time in the sewers and using invisibility powers to get around. So it was like a whole different game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. It was super cool. We were in some fights where we were like, whoa, did they like purposefully do that? Where they would like somebody that we were fighting would walk out of range of the undead and then throw poison to like just hit the people who weren't undead. And we were like, did it do that on purpose? That's so smart. And then the other thing undead can do is they can pick locks with their fingers. So
no, that's neat. I'm gonna play an undead. I'm gonna roll an undead. That sounds great.
Yeah, do it. It's super fun. One of the because they have like either you can make your own character and do whatever, or you can start with a base like origin, which is like a character that comes with a story, comes with a voice, comes with like motivations already planned out. So I played the like undead origin because they have one already like pre-made character that's undead, and it was pretty fun. So
is there any big systems or like mechanics difference between this and the first game? Like any did they introduce like a new like gem system or like anything along those lines that you recall?
Not that I can think of.
I think it's still the base turn-based tactics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's the one thing that I think they really focused on this time was making it so there's multiple, like before there was a few ways you could do things. This time there's lots of ways to do things.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've really hit that home. The literally the first area of the objective is get off the island. We found 4 ways, at least 4 ways.
I was gonna say 4, yeah.
But I know there's more. Like there's numerous ways to just do this main objective, plus all these other things.
Yeah,
that you can do. One of my favorite quests, and I think this is like hands down. This is not a spoilery thing at all, but this is like you are sent by this one guy. He's like, yeah, someone stole my damn drugs, and if I don't get my drugs back, I'm gonna kill some people. And you go around and like, if you have the ability to talk to animals, a dog will be like, it smells like oranges, like all these different things. But eventually you'll just be walking on the beach and be like, do I smell oranges? And then there's like a lizard passed out on the sand and he smells of oranges. And there's at least 6 ways that you can finish this quest just by interacting with this lizard. And depending on your race and your class and all these different things, there's multiple ways just to resolve the fact that this lizard is high as a kite off of drugs smuggled in oranges.
I'm sorry.
It's so cool. It's one little quest, but there's so much you can do. I love it. I think it's great.
I know it's silly. I just found that really funny. Like drugs that smell of oranges, and there's a passed out lizard.
They're literally drugs like inside of oranges. Yeah.
That's good.
Because even with the first one, right? Like both games are set up where it's like you can kill whoever you want. So it creates a situation where you have to be able to do things a lot of different ways, because otherwise if you make a mistake, if you fuck up and you kill a character that was like your way of getting off the island, like the game would stop, right? So there are lots of different ways that you can do things.
And there's so many. Like there's one of the ways to get off the island is you get like a glove that can teleport you off. And Krendor and I, because we're scumbags, got the glove, and the guy's like, come on, follow me. I'll show you how to get off the island. We went with him and got down far enough to where we could get to a chest, got the chest, and left the guy on a cliff. We were like, see ya, bitch. And like, that was it. And now we had a teleport glove for the rest of our adventures.
Oh, yeah, and then there was like a huh?
I got that cat. At the very beginning, I got a cat. Like on the island, a cat came up to me, and I was like, what do you want, cat? And the cat was like, meow. And Krender like tried to talk to it, and the cat was like, I'm confused. I don't know where I'm at. And I kept the cat alive the entire time we were on the island, to the point where when we got off after we escaped the main, we didn't get off the island, but after we escaped the main fort area, the cat was like, hey, I just realized like I'm on a mission, and like, hey, I'll be your pal. And it became a summon ability of mine. So I now can summon a cat into battle. And I was like,
yeah, he was like, holy shit, it attacks dudes. We were like, yes.
There's so many little things in this game. It's great.
Yeah. It's really cool when games do that. They have like alternate multiple ways to do something, or like there'll be like a lot of secret hidden areas. And I'm glad that there are games doing it, because I know a lot of times like some developers don't want to do that, like have alternate endings or alternate like halfway through paths in a game, because then what ends up happening is a lot of your player base doesn't see like 50% of the stuff that you developed. But it makes the experience so much more interesting when you have all these different possibilities. And like if you do another playthrough, it could be completely different, you know?
Yeah, and it makes the game really fun to talk about.
Yeah.
And I think like it's just smart. Like if Jesse and I were playing this game separately, we could come to each other and have completely different stories. Like the ways that the game has unfolded would be entirely different, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
And shout out to them for creating a DM GM mode. Like literally,
which is cool.
You just get someone to create yourself like a campaign, and you can do anything with it. Like you have the full commands of summoning and doing all sorts of shit with the game. You can make monsters, you can make abilities, you can like change the world. That's super cool. And so that's another aspect of this game that's like, okay, well, you beat the main game. You could go back, play it again, and do new things, or you can just get a friend to create you an entirely new game.
Or you can there's a ranked PvP mode in it, for fuck's sake. Like, they didn't need to put that in, but it's there. It's what's really cool about, I think, these big CRPGs. We've had a revival of them lately. You know, Divinity is a good example. Wasteland 2 is another good example. Tyranny, Pillars of Eternity. And what it's showing is, look, people really like choice and options and being able to finish things multiple ways. And if you make a game in this style, it's quite easy to account for those things. But if you make a really heavily scripted, expensive game, every single one of those extra options is going to cost you a ton of dev time, and it's going to make it difficult. Just go back to look at what Neverwinter Nights did. You know, that has a ton of that in as well. And you were able to create a DM mode and things like that in that game too. So there's obviously a big market desire for that. And this game is catering to that in lots of different ways. I am really happy it's successful. I think the first one was a great example of Kickstarter success. Pretty much every one of those CRPGs came out of Kickstarter, and they all ended up being good.
Yo, and we've been on that Divinity train since like the beginning. Go back, watch the old podcast.
Play the first one. Yeah.
I'm really happy too. I guess just as a side note for the guys at Larian, because every time I've spoke to them, they've been super nice and friendly.
They're great.
I'm glad that they're doing well. You know, they're cool dudes. So.
They're really cool. Yeah, go watch the DM session that they did with Matt Mercer. Jesse and Dodger and a couple of others were involved in that. That's all available on Jesse's channel, if I recall correctly.
I think everyone has it, but I'd love you to watch it on mine.
Hey! Yeah, there you go. So do definitely check that out. I still haven't... Tyranny released an expansion. It's probably getting overshadowed immensely by this. I didn't get around to playing Tyranny, but I like the idea of it that you are the bad guys, and it's just to what degree of bad you are. And that is appealing to me. And it's not that long. It's like a 30-hour game, which is, that's doable. That's a thing you could work through in about a week.
Also, the beginning is super fun, where you're just like, how evil was I? Let's go back and review my evilness.
Yeah, some people didn't like the fact that your origin story is kind of done that way instead of playing it out.
I love that.
But, yeah. God, there's a lot to do. I really do want to tackle Divinity. It's just such a large game. I'm not sure when I'm going to get the time to do it, but I'm definitely going to make the effort because it looks so good. Very cool. All right, we've got loads to talk about after the break, folks, but what we'd like to talk to you about now is our sponsor, Audible. Check out audible.com/cynical for your free audiobook and get yourself a free trial to the largest collection of audiobooks in the world, playable on practically any device. and we'd like to share with you some recommendations for maybe something that you might want to pick up with your free book or your subscription. Have a look. This is Dodger's recommendation. That's my name. So, Dodger, why exactly did you recommend this, of all things?
It's an adorable young adult novel. It's called The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, written by Mackenzie Lee.
Okay.
And it's about a young British lord who is known for his hedonistic tendencies and just generally being very embarrassing to his father.
Okay.
And he takes a year-long trip to Paris with his best friend and his younger sister. And it's supposed to just be like, look, let's get it all out of our systems, and then I can become like, I can take over for my dad and know that I like lived it up, right? And it winds up turning into this crazy like like there's alchemy and there's pirates and all kinds of shit because these kids just keep making terrible choices that put them in swashbuckling ridiculous danger. And it's just super fun. Like it's a really, really fun book. So and what's his name? Christian Colson. Christian Colson. He does a really, really good job of voicing it. So yeah, I recommend this book. I've only listened to like some of the audio, but it makes me want to listen to the whole thing because I have read the book. So
very cool. And bear in mind, for those of you that had read the book or do prefer to read along, there is, of course, Amazon WhisperSync, which allows you to sync it all up with your Kindle version. So you can have it moving along at the same pace and keep track of it. Some people just find it easier to remember. I do find myself phasing out every once in a while from some audiobooks as a result of that, especially if there's something else going on in the room. So that's useful. Now, in terms of something I actually picked up during one of their sales recently is We Are Legion, We Are Bob. The Bobaverse Book 1. They've been poking me on this one for ages. They say, we really think you'll like this. I'm like, God's sake, okay, Audible, all right, I'll pick it up. And I'm kind of happy I did, because it's a very fresh, original feeling sci-fi. The whole idea is, guy named Bob, well, he got run over by a truck. Sucks. Well, in this universe, if you die, you kind of become a corpsicle, and you then become property of the state. And in this case, he gets uploaded, he gets given a choice. You can control the AI of a probe that's going to be sent out to try and find new worlds, or we'll kill you, basically. So he is sent out on his own into the universe, and he gets involved in all sorts of crazy shit and, you know, giant intergalactic politics and everything. It's literally just this random guy, Bob, who is carrying the fate of the human race on his back, and he's also competing with other countries that are trying to do the same thing as well and be the first to find a habitable world. It's really, really original. It's awesome. The narrator, Ray Porter, is absolutely fantastic. And I like sci-fi. I love my sci-fi. This is just a very original piece of sci-fi. It's the kind of thing that I hadn't really heard before, and it's not the only book in the series either. There's a reason why this has like 38,000 5-star ratings or something. It's very, very good, and it's a really good performance as well of the book. So, yeah, go for that. If you're into you want some sci-fi that's a little bit off the wall, a little bit unusual, this is it. This is what you want to look at. Now, Jesse, you do like your Star Wars books. I'm sure you have one for us this week. What you got?
Getting back to tyranny and evil, my recommendation is the Battlefront 2 Inferno Squadron book. I know you're saying, what? Jesse, a Battlefront 2 book? It's Star Wars, first off, and also it's the prequel to the game, so maybe if you're going to play the story mode, that might be fun. But more importantly, it takes place after Rogue One, and it is about the Empire's response and how they're like, yo, we need our own Rogue One team. We're going to call them Inferno Squad because they're going to burn shit up. And yeah, they go and hunt down the remnants of Saw Gerrera's forces and generally wreak havoc throughout the galaxy because evil is awesome, apparently. And it's narrated by the voice actress who does the main character in Battlefront 2. So
yes, the one that was extremely serious on the stage and trying to scare us with a super sexy dominatrix kind of act.
I was scared and aroused.
Indeed, that was a fear boner. That was, no doubt.
Yes, it was. And so she does the voice acting for this as well, and it's a solid entry into the new Star Wars canon, which apparently it totally is. So it makes me excited for the game, actually, because there's a story this time around, and That's what I'm about. I want to see
Yep.
what this is. So
Written by Christy Golden, who has done several excellent WoW books and has also been dipping into Star Wars as of late. Some good stuff. You can sign up pretty much anywhere in the world, and they are currently doing a win-win sale where you can pick up a lot of really good audiobooks for $5 each. So there are some situations where a credit is a better value, but there's some like, oh, for $5, it's worth picking this book up instead of using a credit that I could instead spend on a book that's like $40 instead. So, you know, I could save a lot more money there. Audible's great. It's compatible with practically any device. I use it on my Amazon Echo all of the time. I just walk in, get out my breakfast, and I just tell Alexa to resume my audiobook, and it just kicks off right from where I left off. It's awesome, and I would highly recommend the service. We all use it on a regular basis for a very good reason. Force, have you tried Audible at any point?
No, I didn't get paid for this.
Ah, yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. He is not getting
Fair
sponsorship for this. Why don't you try it? Our free trial at audible.com/internet.
Hey.
There you go.
Great.
Get your free
Great
audiobook
idea.
from there.
See, I don't think
We'll bring
read and or listen.
you into
exactly.
the club. All right, folks. Thank you very much for listening to our sponsorship spot. And, of course, big thanks to Audible, an Amazon company, for their sponsorship of the Co-optional podcast. We'll be right after the break, folks. Don't go anywhere. More games discussion coming your way. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Co-optional podcast. I'm really just getting used to this lovely Stream Deck thing here. Yeah, it's making the show a lot easier, but you have to remember to push the buttons on here instead of just doing it manually. I'm like, god damn it. But it is cool. For those who haven't seen it, I'm going to break something, aren't I? I'll guarantee it. This is what it looks like. You're not going to be able to see
You
it.
can't stop saying enough good things about that.
I mean, up until a couple of days ago, I was saying, but then they did a proper XSplit implementation. Now I'm saying this is really good now, because it wasn't reliable before that, because it was reliant on global hotkeys instead, and there's certain programs that override that. But for doing co-optional, I mean, you saw that, you know, co-optional needs, there's 13 buttons there, the co-optional needs to work properly, and Shoutcraft needs even more than that, so it's pretty damn good.
What's the going rate for those things?
Probably too expensive, but that's like 130, 140, I think. It is like a full screen underneath it, which is why each of those buttons can be its own individual thing. So
Right.
it's not too shabby. The only thing I'd say about Elgato, their overpriced fucking $150 mini green screen is something you definitely do not need.
No.
You
go
don't.
go to Home Goods and
$10.
yeah, exactly.
That's all you need. You know, just couple 3-point lighting rig, nice and cheap one off Amazon, $50, $60, $10 green screen, you're good. That's all you need. If anyone's like, oh, it's getting streaming, you need all this fancy shit, you don't. Decent mic, Logitech webcam, $10 green screen, you're good. And that's assuming you even use green screen. A lot of us don't. Right. We don't see the point. But right now, that little deck is proven to be quite handy for the show. If I remember to actually use it. Right. Now, I believe, Force, you have been doing a lot of Destiny 2 as of late.
How you feeling, girl?
I've been playing way too much Destiny 2. I am prone to dive in head first, especially to MMO-esque games with loot treadmills.
I've seen you do that. I saw what you did with Warframe. I saw what you did with Division.
Yeah. They're exploiting me psychologically, and I know it, but I'm okay with it.
How dare they? How dare they?
I have fun while I do it.
Yeah.
Destiny 2 is a lot better than Destiny 1 was at launch. So just to preface this, I did play a lot of, I'll just call it vanilla Destiny, the base launch of the game. I played like 500 or 600 hours before the first expansion. So I played the hell out of it, probably way more than I needed to. I didn't really follow up deeply with the expansions, but I at least kept up with what they had, what they were adding, just to get a general sense. But I never went back for the expansions. So that's a preface. With that said, Destiny 2 launched in a state that I think a lot of people hoped and expected to get from the base launch of Destiny 1. There's a lot more. The explorable areas, especially Earth, which is the largest of the 4 explorable areas. There's Earth, Titan, Io, and Nessus are like the planets or moons or whatever that you get to explore, explorable spaces. And Earth is by far the biggest, and it is like just all of them. It's not only just like surface area. I'm not simply talking about like from point A to point B, but they also added in all of the locations, there's a lot more verticality. So there's a lot more heights that you can climb up to. And there's tons of cavernous areas. They added this new system called the Lost Sectors, which are kind of like these mini dungeons. And in and of themselves, they're nothing spectacular, but it's kind of one of those things where the sum of all the parts, you know, makes it a greater experience. And the addition of these little caves that you get to explore, it was one of my favorite things of the Elder Scrolls Online. They had these little dungeons scattered throughout the world, and they've got something similar in the Lost Sectors here that I've really, really enjoyed. There are these little caves with these mini bosses that you go in, and again, it's a pretty straightforward experience, but that added on top of the larger surface area, the greater verticality, and the larger amount of things to do between patrols. They have their adventure activities. They have the public events that take place on a regular basis, and the public events are even more layered because they have heroic versions that you can trigger by doing special things. Just the act of playing the game feels a lot more involved than vanilla Destiny was. So that aspect of the game I'm liking much, much more than what we got first with Destiny 1.
What are you thinking about? Because they kept being like, "Oh, there's so much more story. It's so tons of story." How do you feel?
I get asked that a lot, and I feel bad about my response to this. I just don't give a crap about the story in these games.
So
I know
you're
that
the wrong person to ask.
I am the wrong person to ask.
Gamer and the worst type of game.
Well,
I agree with him. I'm not, when it comes to loot shooters, I don't give a fuck about the story, man.
Exactly.
I care about loot, good loot, and fun combat. And
Oh, God.
I guess the point is, for me, it depends on why I'm approaching a game. There are certainly games where I'm deeply involved with the story. Like The Last of Us is one of my favorite games. Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. Papa EO, like we talked about earlier. These are some of my favorite games of all times, exclusively for the stories. But a game like this, I approach very differently. I'm playing them for the loot treadmill. I'm playing them for the hopeful difficulty of the end game, and just the act of the social experience of playing with your friends and going and doing these different things in the world and doing the dungeons and all that stuff. So yeah, I heard the story's better at Destiny 2.
I'm sure Jesse could comment on that. I mean, Destiny's Destiny 2. You've dabbled a little bit.
That's a series now, Jesse.
Yeah. You've dabbled a bit in number 2, Jesse, haven't you? Just a bit? Or no?
I only played the beta, and the beta is straight up just.
The beta was trash.
The beta wasn't much.
Yeah.
Are you waiting for PC?
I'm gonna wait for PC because I see no
PC.
point of playing it on PlayStation or whatever. Because I genuinely suck at controlling guns and first-person shooters with a controller. I cannot do it to save my fucking life.
It's not fun to do either. Sucks. Forza, I assume you're abandoning your PS4 version right when the PC version comes out.
Yeah,
are you feeling like?
From what I understand, they're going to be keeping pace with all of the DLC that's coming up. Once the PC version comes out, the first DLC pass will be hitting all platforms at the same time.
Right.
So there's no reason for me. Yeah, October 24th is the PC launch, and then all the people I normally play with are also going to be playing on the PC. I wanted to pick this up because again, I loved my time with Destiny 1. I just ended up running out of stuff to do, and all of my friends had stopped playing, so there was not much reason to grind gear if I had no one to show it off to. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I am many times more with Destiny 2. I am enjoying this base experience. I talked about this the other day. Part of me wishes, I think this would have been phenomenal, that they had Destiny 2 had been Destiny 1 plus Destiny 2. Like, I wish it was. Part of me wishes they took the approach with this game that they do with MMOs, which is they took the world and then they added on top of it. You know what I mean? But it's weird because I have that critique or that desire, but at the same time, we don't complain that Call of Duty 4 didn't also include Call of Duty 3, 2, and 1.
True, but your point about it being an MMO is kind of valid. WoW adds it as a new continent, and then sometimes they go back and once a continent's old enough, they'll be like, this doesn't hold up to the rest of it, so we've got to redo it. We've got to polish it up again. I mean, that would have been nice, because there's probably some pretty cool areas in Destiny 1 that especially PC users never got to see it. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that.
I think it would have been special. I think part of it was likely that they didn't want to exclude the player base of the last console generation. And I think, unfortunately, that likely reason, or maybe one of the reasons, is why we're probably not going to see Destiny 2 as part of Destiny 3, because by then we're probably going to have a PlayStation 5 and, I don't know, Xbox 2 or whatever they end up deciding to call it. I guess it just depends on how you perceive these games, because I play and perceive these games as an MMO, so that's kind of why I wish that Destiny 1 was rolled into this. But that aside, as it is, they've definitely learned a lot from their mistakes. I think there's a lot of quality of life things they still need to improve on. You still run into the question of the amount of content for people who play it like an MMO, which it means you play it like you have no life. Because if you do it like I do, you run into that wall sooner or later. Yeah. Where, there's not infinite content because it's not procedural content. So it all becomes about the grind sooner or later. The question is that grind engaging enough for you?
It's less MMORPG and more Diablo.
Yeah. Or Borderlands, that those are games you can draw clear comparisons to.
But there's you're essentially, after a while, you're literally doing the same thing over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. And
little tweaks here and
there. The benefit, there's a lot of criticisms, and a lot of them are well warranted for Destiny. But one of the things that I can say is I felt this way about the first game. It's that just the gameplay is the gameplay loop is so very satisfying. The gunplay is a lot of fun, and I say that as someone who doesn't necessarily love console shooters. I much prefer playing with a mouse and keyboard. But even that. It's just so fun to play. It's so satisfying. The sounds of the headshots, it's a very rewarding experience, and I'm really excited for the PC launch of it. And I'm at the end game right now. I'm at the point where I'm kind of maxed at what I'm doing, and I'm looking now to start to play other characters. But
have you tried the raid yet?
What's that?
You tried the raid yet?
Yeah, we the group that I play with, we beat it last week, and the hard mode version is coming out this week. The raid is great. I'll talk about this briefly. Feel free to cut me off whenever, by the way. But
go for it, dude.
This has been my life for 2 weeks, so I have a lot to say.
Most of the reason I brought you on, so by all means, you lay it on.
The real thing that I like about this raid, and as with everything, there's people who view it completely differently. But the thing that I enjoy about this raid, and I think you would appreciate this as well, TB, is one of the big problems with shooting RPG games or shooting loot games is how you design mechanics. And a lot of times mechanics to boss fights in these games are just give the boss a lot of health and or make something do a lot of damage. So it's all about line of sighting, and just whenever you get the chance, just pour as much damage into this boss as you can. And the raid actually really only has one boss fight, and it's the last boss. And even that fight, a majority of the time, it's all about mechanics. There's a lot of coordination that takes place. You have to work with the other members of your team and constantly communicate with them. I guess a perfect example is one of the encounters is the team of 6 splits in 2, and one group has to say something that only they can see to the other group of 3, and they then have to do something to let that group progress. So there's lot of it's a lot of puzzle solving and a lot of coordination and synchronizing things, like synchronizing shots or actions within the event, much more so than here's the boss with a lot of health, avoid his heavy attack and try to kill him. So I like that approach much better than just the bullet sponge. I think they did a good job with this raid.
That sounds good. My main concern with Destiny is the bullet spongy aspect of it. I hate that in shooters. It doesn't matter how cool your gun sounds if you can clearly see it's doing about as much damage as a fucking paintball. So it's not as entertaining there. But I've seen some of the guns, it seems like if I'm going to play it, I'd probably want to go a magnum pistol and a shotgun of some sort just to make sure that keep those shots to kill kind of low. It's great to hear they have that required voice coordination. I love the idea of having to communicate something back that only one part of the team can see. You know, that's part of some board games that we really like Captain Sonar, or you remember Space Team on the iPhone and on Android, where you had to communicate that information across. And there was an element of that to Dead Space 3 as well, where one person was seeing things the other person couldn't. Encouraging, kind of forcing that communication through the game mechanics is an excellent idea for ensuring that a raid's going to be very entertaining. And that's the best way to raid, man. That feeling of camaraderie you get on voice makes raiding really enjoyable. That's what I loved about WoW. And when that went away from WoW, I stopped caring about WoW. So I am very interested to play Destiny 2 when it hits PC. Definitely. Yeah. I want to play it. I'm just not going to play it on a console.
I'm impressed. I mean, there's definitely like complaints to be levied against the game. The microtransactions have people upset, understandably. I guess
Shaders
what I
think
would
it's so bullshit.
Yeah, to the point, at the very least, the concerns about pay to win are pretty unfounded, because the game relevant things that you get from the microtransactions are so minuscule, and you far surpass it simply by playing the game. The nefarious side of that is that they have their customization system through shaders as one-time use items now, and you can get a lot of those by spending money. So people who really care about cosmetics, which this is a big thing that you're seeing in the gaming industry over the past like 7 years or whatever, is that people do care about it, and they're willing to spend lots of money on cosmetics. And so pay to win, not a huge problem with Destiny 2. Microtransactions in a $60 game, though, still pretty much sucks, especially since we know there's going to be at least 3 DLCs that they're charging, $30 for, $40 for.
It's unnecessary.
So it's a little lame, but no one's paying to get a huge advantage over someone. So at least that's not there yet.
Hashtag Overwatch, though. No one gave a shit about that.
And actually, a lot of people,
people
people have started to turn on Overwatch's system in kind of a big way. And, you know, I think we first saw it at the first Summer Games last year, where people were like, oh, it's really hard to get these skins, and the in-game currency you have to spend is 3 times more than a regular skin would be, and it's a limited time event. So I feel like I really do have to buy a shit ton of crates in order to get what I want. And I'll happily admit, since that time, I've been saying I don't mind loot boxes on their own as just a reward for leveling up. But if you are not going to let me buy the thing that I want outright for a regular amount of money, you're going to take the piss. I'm going to start hating your game. Like, Heroes of the Storm. There's a lot of good things about those loot boxes. You know, you get a lot of rewards, a lot of good stuff. But because they've now blocked off the ability to buy almost every skin in the game because they've hidden it behind a bunch of other shit, I now don't want to play and spend money in that game anymore.
Like, oh my God. For real, though, Heroes is a game where when you complete quests, you get gold.
Yep.
Gold has no function but it allow you to re-roll what you've spent your real money on and or time. Like, what a fucking... There are 3 currencies in Heroes, guys! 3 currencies!
Yeah. I mean, fuck. The only reason we're not more angry about that is that Fortnite has like 7. But one way or the other... Yeah, Blizzard has gone full on with the loot box system, and I've rapidly turned off those ideas because of the way they've implemented them. You can have them in addition to something, but don't obfuscate my ability to buy microtransactions. I'm not going to play your shitty loot box gambling game, because let's call it what it is at this point. Yeah, it's a form of gambling, even if you can't sell that shit outside of the game, and it's really starting to piss me off.
On that note, I am okay with the idea of funding future development solely through cosmetics.
Yes.
Versus charging for DLCs and splitting up your player base and all of that. It's just the developer has to find the line. It's a line they have to balance between taking advantage of people but not making them feel like you're taking advantage of them.
Yeah.
And it sounds really creepy when you say it, but the flip side is, look, they're employing people that probably spend millions a year just paying people's salaries to continue to make content for games. They're getting that money somewhere.
Ultimately,
if it's just going to be cosmetic systems, I can live with that.
There are better ways to do it. Like, especially with the problem with Destiny, of course, is you had the first game, and people then had an expectation of how shaders worked, and then they took steps backwards. You know, fashion frame for Warframe is a big deal. Shaders are a big deal, but shaders are super cheap, and they're infinite use in Warframe. You could buy a massive pack of shaders for like the equivalent of $1 and get a huge amount of customization out of that. And you can also trade in-game currency for the platinum to pick those up. So you don't have to spend money on them. So there's like an economy where you barter that. You just sell prime parts that you get from drops for it. So that's a way around it. Think about something like Dark Souls. Fashion Souls is a thing. And people love customizing their characters and looking unique and awesome or obnoxious and ridiculous. I love that too. If you're going to make it super difficult for me to do that, I'm going to start getting annoyed with you. I will pay money for cosmetic microtransactions if you don't take the piss. When you start taking the piss, I'm not going to play, and I'm not going to jump through your fucking fiery hoops anymore.
Yeah.
If I can't, I just want to spend, look at that. I want to spend $5 or $10 on that. Let me do it. If you're not going to let me do it, I'm not going to participate at all. And you just lost, you just lost the whale. Someone that is
TB,
literally willing to throw hundreds of dollars at it.
There's a really good chance you're going to get exactly what you want.
Yeah, and it's a good chance 95% of it is a big pile of dog shit that you're never going to use again,
Yeah.
So keep loot boxes for level up rewards. Keep it out of everything else. It's not good. It is still cosmetic. It doesn't affect the game, but they're continually doing things which are making me less and less likely to give them money. And I can't be the only one thinking that way.
For sure. I guess those shenanigans aside, though, the TLDR in Destiny 2, it's a better version of vanilla Destiny 1. If you didn't like Destiny 1, you probably won't like this. You're fighting the same enemies.
Yeah.
The gameplay is pretty much the same. They've tweaked some of the classes, but you still have the same 3 classes. Although supposedly we're getting a 4th faction or 5th or whatever. We're getting a new faction at some point in Destiny 2. Very odd that they didn't include that in launch of the game. That seems like a big selling point. Yeah. Like halfway through its lifespan, I guess they're adding a new one.
That's a bit weird.
Oh, I was going to say maybe they were planning on releasing it once it was out on all of the platforms.
Oh, yeah. Maybe.
To make people be like, oh, yeah, Destiny.
Yeah, but I guess I've heard that there's a new faction coming at some point, but weird that it's not out when a game comes out. But it's a better Destiny 1 in a lot of ways. I've enjoyed it much more, and I believe I'll be sticking with it much longer than I did vanilla Destiny.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Destiny 2.
Cool stuff.
TB, how have you been feeling about Total War?
Well,
Sam and I were watching you play it.
I played a lot. Yeah, thanks to Creative Assembly, they said, hey, you want to stream Skaven campaign this weekend? I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, I do, because I really enjoyed that the last time. So I got to basically stream about 10 hours of the Skaven campaign, and people got to watch us start from our little ratty beginnings all the way through to fucking with everything. And we got to show off a lot of the units. We got up to the big stuff, Hell Pit Abominations and Warp Lightning Cannons and Warp Fire Throwers and really cool stuff, and got to get a Legendary Lord very, very high up, like to the point where he's just a death machine. He's got so many cool items and so many cool spells. He can rip an army apart himself. And yeah, I enjoy it a lot. It's very much more of the same of Total War Warhammer, but better. And a lot of it's going to come down to, do you want more of that? And are you into these races? Like, do you like Lizardmen, Skaven, High Elves, and Dark Elves? If you don't, maybe hold off until they do come up with something. Bear in mind, if you're in the first game, you can play all of the original races in this one. So now, that means there's a ton of races and a lot of options to mess around with in this world. And a lot of these different campaigns you can play. So there's a ton of content. There's just a lot of things that have been tightened up, little bolts that have been tightened up so they're not so rattly anymore. There's a lot more options for like overlays and hiding certain elements you don't like and making certain people turns go faster than others. So like if you're at war with somebody, you can say, yeah, show all the movements of that so I can keep track of the army, and everyone else just have them move instantly. So it speeds up the time from turn to turn. Performance generally seems better, although I definitely did encounter some stuttering on certain battle maps. It is not a review-ready build yet. They said the review-ready build is in about 2 days' time, so I'll have to try that again prior to it. I mean, I was running like 120, 140 FPS most of the time, but there were occasionally times where it would just chug a little bit, depending on the map. For Skaven, it's just, if you want a faction that can be played in either a very much a disposable swarm kind of way, with a shit ton of units, just sending them to their death and then firing into your own troops and blowing shit up, they can do that. Or they have some really monstrous elite options as well. If you want some really powerful monsters and big war machines and you want to hold the line with elite storm vermin with halberds and really tough troops, you've got that too. It's probably not their main tactic, but you can do it. I've got 3 different armies running right now in my campaign that have 3 very different compositions. You want a sneaky composition. There are stealth troops and guys that have a lot of dodge and can use concealment bombs and all that kind of good stuff. And you can do shit like summon units all over the battlefield. And there's a lot of fun to be had there. I really want to try out some of the other factions because they've all now got their own unique battle mechanic. For instance, for High Elves, if you go into a fight with full strength units, you get a bunch of bonuses. There's like a kind of martial discipline kind of thing. If you go in with Dark Elves, the more you kill, the more of a blood frenzy they get. And once they hit a certain threshold, they go crazy and just murder everybody. So there's some really cool ideas behind that. And I found that the campaign management's a little bit better too. There's a few more things you have to consider.
The animations with They have unique animations for each race fighting against each other, right?
Yeah, and they go further than that as well. They also have unique animations for monsters fighting monsters. Oh, and that's great. Like, you get one of your monsters like, Hydra versus Griffin. Let's see what happens. And they've got a ton of unique battle animations where, like, the Hydra will wrestle the Griffin to the ground and do all sorts of shit like that. And that looks really, really cool. Like, there's no question about that. And a lot of what people were really excited about when the Total War went fantasy is we can have these big monster units now, which in the previous games can't really do that. That's not historically accurate. The best thing you get are elephants most of the time. But there's a lot of really fun monsters that all have their own fun abilities, and magic is much more important in this game as well. So if you like spamming huge spells all over the battlefield, doing tons of damage with it, the game's very good with that. But I will certainly say, if you did not enjoy Total War Warhammer 1, kind of like then the Destiny 1 to 2 kind of comparison, they haven't changed enough to change your mind. This is definitely more of the same. A big way that some people have explained it is it's a mega expansion, because they've added on definitely enough content for a sequel, and it's priced that way too. But because it's cross-compatible with the last game, it is like an expansion pack. So you're paying $60 mega expansion that integrates the last game in. So the concern you have with Destiny 1 there, where you can't play the old content, in this you can. So it's a really big Total War experience. And if that's what you want, yeah, it's awesome. And it's got the co-op campaign, it's got the versus mode, pretty much everything you like. The story is a lot better this time, I think, because you are constantly working on this big ritual. And everyone gets their own unique cutscenes and animations for every stage of the ritual. And with the Skaven, it was first like, I sent my little squire into the cave because I was a big pussy and couldn't be bothered to do it myself. And he met the great horned rat, and he said, you must build the giant thing. And it's like, how do we build the giant thing, great horned rat? You'll build it like this. And then the second one, it's just this giant fucking thing with a huge, spinning saw in it. It's like, what the fuck is that? We don't know, but the great horned rat said we had to build it. And so there's a lot of crazy stuff going on there. And I like the fact that, unlike previous Total War games, you have to fight to the very end to win. In most campaigns, you got to the point where you were so dominant that you might as well not bother clearing everybody else out. In this, because there's this ritual, and whoever completes the whole ritual first wins, you have to fight to the very end. So that feels pretty good. I enjoyed it a lot. I had a lot of fun on stream with it. I'm definitely going to be playing it when it comes out. That'll be my conclusion on it at the moment. I want to try and get a bit more Dark Elf campaign time in before I do a big kind of critique on it. But so far, so good.
Awesome. It looks cool.
Yeah, it is. And really, like, if you're intimidated by Total War, I think Total War's got a kind of an unfair reputation of like, oh, it's a grand strategy. It's Babby's first grand strategy. It really is.
Yeah,
like,
it's still intimidating. Don't say that. Don't say that.
It is.
It is a bit, you know? But you've got to, like, especially if you play on the easier modes, really it's about grab a blob of units, set a formation, and you just do that by holding and dragging. And it's tactics. You know, it's grand scale tactics. So, there's knights charging me. Get my spears up at the right, so they're not facing backwards, so they don't get hit in the rear and all that kind of thing. These are kind of basic tactics that I think everybody understands, as opposed to anything super complicated. And I've won plenty of battles in Total War Warhammer 2 just by applying basic military theory to it. It's like, oh, shit, they got a bunch of cavalry. I'm going to set up my spears in the woods, because the woods are going to slow down that cavalry charge, and then I'm going to flank them with a bunch of rat ogres and blow them up that way. It's good.
TB, have you played the other that new Warhammer game that just did early access? Inquisitor?
Oh god, yeah, it's not very good.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been disappointed
Sorry.
with that so far. There's one big reason that I think Inquisitor needs a lot of work. So, for those who don't know, Inquisitor is a Warhammer 40,000 style Diablo game where you play an Inquisitor they're basically Sherlock Holmes with a machine gun in the 40k universe. Their job is to root out heresy and hunt down demons and all that kind of shit. Inquisitor is less of the investigatory element, more of the shooting shit element, which is fine. But there is this weird camera in it that swings it around so much that it makes me feel seasick. I don't know why it's there, but after playing 30 minutes of it, I wanted to run away. So I don't know why it's there. They need an option to turn that off. Like, I don't see why you can just have the standard isometric Diablo camera. No harm in doing that. There's nothing your game does that's remotely different to stop that from happening. Right now, though, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm going to wait for it to finish. I think it's way too early in development, and that camera style is nauseating. So
there's too many damn Warhammer games. I'm just remembering now the
are.
Warhammer PvP game that I don't think ever came out.
It did. Eternal Crusade. Not
Oh,
very
it
many people
did?
play it. Yeah,
Oh.
it went kind of free to play. And it's not very good. I played it. It's like a really crappy version of Battlefield. It's not that good. Could have been a lot better than it was. Like, it was what was left of the Warhammer 40k MMO, Dark Millennium,
Yeah.
I think. And they just stripped out what they had and made it into that, and it just ended up being pretty shit.
Oh, those reviews are bad. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The thing about 40k and just fantasy in general is that Games Workshop threw open the doors to let any company that wanted to use it, and that means we've got a lot of shitty games. But
Yeah.
we got stuff like Battlefleet Gothic, which would have never got without that. So every now and again, or Space Wolf, which is really good. So there's a few pretty good games, and there's a lot of tat. Inquisitor right now is tat, but it can be fixed. And a loot
See
game in
potential
40k,
in it.
yeah. I mean, it's a Diablo-style loot game in the 40k universe. Like, it's kind of hard to fuck that up. It's just they currently have fucked it up.
And yet.
And yet, yeah, if they could just, fix that and get that back on where it needs to be, I think it'll be okay. That's what early access is for, right? Making sure you take that feedback. So I hope they do.
Vermintide was good. There's one.
Vermintide was very, very good. I think there's going to be a deal on our sponsor, chrono.gg/TB. We're going to be selling 4-packs of that for not a lot of money at all. So I think we're going to probably get back together and play some more Vermintide, because that was fun. We played that together and we had a lot of fun in co-op with that game.
Yeah, I'm stoked. They're doing a sequel, right? They announced that.
They
not too
are.
long
Yep,
ago.
they are. I can't wait to see what enemies there are in it. Apparently there's some new enemies and they might not be Skaven. Ooh. So, yeah, that could be good. If they make the Left 4 Dead 2 of Warhammer games, I'll be super happy with that. Versus mode, man. Versus mode. That would be great. Jesse, what else have you been playing this week?
Yo, Dukes and I played The Letter.
Oh, yeah, we did.
The Letter, yes.
Which is a horror visual novel. And I know like many people around the world, would be like, what the fudge is that, beef? And it is genuinely a scary game. But it's weird to say that.
I'm
but
glad to hear you say that, since you have a show literally called Scary Game Squad. I felt like I couldn't say that because it would show that I'm a baby.
no, it did take us 20 minutes of like story setup to get into the scares. But with that said, like, it is an anime game, but a scary one. And I think it behooves them that it's not a static image. Like, you know how in most story games of that nature where it's like, and then they're like, I'm happy
Yeah,
now.
there's like the one picture of each person, but they've got it so that everybody kind of like
moves and
sways,
sway.
or like when they turn their head, their hair moves and things like that. And so it gives you this really odd feeling because you never totally feel safe. And thank God we felt that way, because near the end of the Fan Friday that we did, like suddenly it was a QTE and there was a thing chasing us and we were like, fuck.
Like, the game actually has things that come at you. And we were like, nope. Holy shit. It's like a revelation. I'm really impressed that a game like this exists. I thought it was going to be like a cheesy, like, oop, got you with a scary picture, but it's legit like a real video game of like you have to do things besides just go through a story.
And shout out to everybody who tweeted us explaining what a jeepney is.
Yes. In the story,
What's a jeepney?
Look, the story has a lot of things about how, one, Briar Realty is the worst realty in the world, and two, her dad.
We were like, are they calling out a real realtor? So curious.
And jeepney apparently is in the Philippines. It's like the mode of transportation. We thought it was like just a longer form of jeep,
like a way to say jeep. Yeah, and then everybody that we know who's either been to the Philippines or is from the Philippines was like, "Yo, a jeepney is like a taxi," and we were like, "Oh!" And sending us like pictures and stuff. Yeah, they're like big taxis. So
yeah, but it is a genuinely like compelling game. It was one of those things where it isn't just your normal drivel of like anime bullshit. It's anime as fuck, but it's like a real scary game. It's a real horror game.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a shock. And I was like, all right, we definitely need to stream this at some point. So
yeah, we're talking about streaming it. So keep your eyeballs peeled for that. Maybe next week.
Yep. It's super cool.
Okay. Anything else you've been playing?
Oh my God. Look, this week I played a ton of Heroes, but I'm not going to jump on that train and comment on that. I will say,
that is true. I invaded your room a couple of times and you were always playing Heroes. I was like, all right.
It's when I have like a video rendering, usually when I have a video rendering on both these computers, I either end up playing Civ 6 or Heroes. And I don't know why. I guess it's like a comfort thing, but like I'll sit here and just like zone out while stuff gets done. And yeah, oh my God. I've also been playing a lot of Warrior All-Stars, y'all. Oh my God.
You talked a lot about that last week. It's you would seem to be pretty into it.
This week, not only am I into it, so last night I went because I was going to level characters, right? I was going to level up different characters and just try to power level everyone because it's a Warriors game. Eventually, you have to just grind out characters so everyone can hit max. So I'm playing through these characters, and I get to the point where I find a new character, and it's like this sexy demon chick, and she's like, "Hey, cat." So then my main character that I'm playing as is literally the cat version of Nobunaga called Nobunyaga, and he is like a little tiny chibi cat. Don't ask. It doesn't make sense. People would come into chat and be like, what the fuck are you playing? I'm like, don't ask questions. Just watch. He's literally a cat who wants to take over the world. And he has like a little mustache and shit. And he has an army of cats that follow him. But I got this girl, and she, at the end of the scene, she was like, hey, Nobunaga, why are we helping these main characters? Why don't we take over this world for ourselves? And I was like, what? And then a mission appeared that was like, hey, you can end the game right now if you as this cat want to just take over the world. And I was like, we have to do this. So I started playing through it, and you fight all the heroes and you kick their asses. And at the end, the main character of the game is like, why would you do this? Do you want? And Nobunaga, who has three like sexy chicks behind him as like his squad, comes up and he's like, I did want to take over this world, but you're all punk ass bitches and I don't even want it anymore. And he walks away, and I was like, what? And that was the end. It was like, you completed one of the story endings. I was like, oh, this is the greatest game I've ever played. He punked everyone. He was like, you all bitches. If your planet's so weak, I don't even want to be here. That's what the ending was. I was like,
amazing.
God, it was a beautiful moment. And then it was like restart and reload, and you can actually play the real game. But I was like, I can't believe a little tiny chibi cat just shit on everyone in this game. He was like, y'all bitches, I'm out.
Wow.
It was awesome. I've never been so happy to play a game that's as ludicrous as this game. The enemies are slime people and dog and cat boys and fucking like toy dolls and giant like birdmen and weird snake Ouroboros people. Like, it is nonsense. It is not. The main characters are a fox boy, his sexy fox mom, his sexy fox sister, and his like Sephiroth looking fox brother, and they're all like, we're trying to become the king of this realm. And then all these other heroes from games that I've never heard of but apparently are very popular in Japan show up in this world, and they're like, we got dragged here, we don't know why we're here, but in order to get back we have to help, I guess. And thank God my little cat boy was like, fuck this, and killed everyone. It was great. I was like, I love this game so much. It is great. My passion.
I'm glad you have a passion for it.
Warriors games is through the roof. You're right, chat. I'm waiting for Dynasty Warriors 9. It's going to be awesome. It's open world Dynasty Warriors. Lubu.
Dear.
Also, Lubu shows up in this game, and I beat Lubu as a chibi cat, and it felt so good.
Okay.
That's all I'm gonna say. Best
Okay.
franchise ever.
It's generally best, like, when he's on something he's super passionate about, just let him go for like 10, 15 minutes. You just wind him up, let him go. It's good filler for the show. The rest of us can take a break. It's great.
You could have gone to the bathroom, come back. I'd still be talking about that fucking cat.
I know. It just would have been a little bit like obvious if we'd done that, but
PB just pees into a cup now.
yeah, mostly. We call it the
the second you get going, once your voice starts to ramp a little, he's like,
Time to
all right.
unzipper the pants.
Yep, just attach the co-optional brand catheter and just get going. That.
Do you guys want a quick Overwatch update?
No,
Sure.
not in the slightest.
Yeah, Jokertown is in there,
No,
right?
we don't. But okay, finally we get one anyway. Right.
Yeah.
This is our queen. We
okay.
want the queen.
Who's the queen? Is it Janet Jackson? Who's the queen?
no,
Is it
it's not
Janet Jackson?
Jackson, Tina Turner. Tina Turner. Janet Jackson. No, she gets her
Who's
boobs
the
covered.
queen?
Tina Turner got the legs to pegs. I don't know what that means. All right.
So there's a new map, Junkertown. It's a payload map, which people are excited about. I mean, just getting new content in general is cool for the game. And I guess since I was last on the podcast, they have added quite a bit. There's the elimination mode that might have been there, but they added the deathmatch gameplay mode, which is really nice for people who want to play Overwatch, a team-based game, without having to play with any stupid fucking teammates. Like deathmatch is a good option for you. And then the new patch today also does something interesting that I'm glad that Blizzard is willing to do with this game. It basically almost entirely changes Mercy. They removed her old ultimate, made it a little less powerful, but a basic skill on a cooldown, and her new ultimate turns her into like a god, allowing her to fly wherever she wants around the map for it's 20 or 30 seconds, making it so that her single target heal can heal her entire team at once and also boost. She doesn't have to reload, so if you want to go battle Mercy flying through the sky and just like unlimited ammo firing at the entire enemy team, you can do that. I think it's cool because they're willing to make, they're not just doing tweaks, like slightly changing cooldowns or the power of things.
They're willing to totally
change a
stuff.
big overhaul. And I think those kind of things are good for a character-based game with skills like this because it keeps it fresh. So there you go. New stuff to Overwatch, some big balance changes to Overwatch. That's happened.
Have you played at all with Doomfist?
Yeah, Doomfist has been cool. He plays much differently than a lot of the other new characters. He's melee focused. You basically have a punch that you can uppercut people with. There's a punch skill where you dive towards people with your fist and you knock them back and you stun them and deal more damage if they hit a wall. He's got like a short range shotgun. They did some balance changes to him, which reduced the size of his hitbox for his punch abilities, which made it a lot more difficult to hit, which has made him a little less powerful than he was when he first came out. But, most of your viewers probably don't care about any of those nuances. But Doomfist as a hero is interesting. They've been on a clip, I believe, of a new hero every 3 months, which, people will compare it to MOBAs. Some MOBAs out there will release a new hero every month or every few weeks. Obviously, the difference with Overwatch is it's a 3D world instead of like a top-down isometric world. So I think that's a bit more, I don't know if it's difficult. I'm not a developer, but I assume it's more difficult to program and add that sort of stuff to these games. But I've been happy with the new hero every 3 months. We're probably going to get one hero, maybe two, at BlizzCon, which is in a month and a half or so from now. So
right.
Overwatch is still getting updates. And unless you really like buying loot boxes, it's only $40 or $60. So it's chugging along. And I'm also happy again with the deathmatch mode because it makes it so that you don't have to deal with teammates if you don't want to. If you like the Overwatch gameplay but don't like
that seems so anti-Overwatch.
Yeah,
but...
I know. At least the options there, yeah.
Yeah, but the options there. You can't complain about that too much.
All right, TB, you done your sandwich?
Yeah, it was quite nice. So Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. That came out today, played a little bit of it. I think quite a few of us tried the demo around E3 and we were not impressed. There was a lot of mocking of Chun-Li's face. What the hell did you do to her face? The story was just bleh. And also the roster was very heavy on Disney properties, and they cut out fan favorites like Wolverine and X-23 because they're not in current Disney Marvel movies, and they went hard on Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, there's at least 3 Guardians of the Galaxy characters in the roster. And then there's Groot as an assist as well. So it's like, I don't care that much about Guardians. So there's some issues with that. But since then, they have definitely done some stuff with the art style that has made it better. Chun-Li doesn't look like an alien anymore, so that's good. I don't hate the art style. I'm going to be honest. Like, I never really did. And I think it's definitely better now. What I will say about it is that there's a very personal preference idea, because Marvel vs. Capcom has had at least 3 very distinct different art styles, right? And the MVC 1 and 2 was very much the 2D Street Fighter style. And then, of course, you had Marvel vs. Capcom 3 that went the graphic novel style with big black outlines and everything. I did not like that. Like, I was not into it. I didn't think it looked that great. But I think this one looks pretty solid, actually. The backgrounds have a lot of detail in them. The stages have a lot of detail. The animations tie nicely to what you're doing. It feels snappy. It feels crisp. And that, I think, was the most important thing to me, that the response time was very, very snappy. And it definitely feels like it is. The transition from 3v3 to 2v2, it's not too bad. I liked, there was a Wii game called Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. That was one of the more little-known crossovers. It was like Tatsunoko... Dodger might know them. They're like an anime company, I think. Guess not. But they did a bunch of anime and stuff like that, so they did a big crossover there. That was a 2v2 game, and that worked pretty well. And if I recall correctly, the original Marvel vs. Capcom, MVC 1, might have been 2v2 as well. So it works out pretty well, and they've added the Infinity Stones in as a game mechanic. So you get to pick one of the 6 Infinity Stones when you start the game. And
they did Speed Racer.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, okay. So, you know, just a little company that made Speed Racer, you know, just a little one.
I don't
like
recognize anybody else in this lineup, but Speed Racer is front and center.
That's a fairly big deal. Yeah. The Infinity Stones give you a very spammable ability. Like, one gives you a little teleport, one lets you throw out a little lightning beam that if you hit, you siphon life. There's another one's like a homing projectile. And then, if you charge Infinity Stone up to full, you can do what's called an Infinity Storm, which makes the background disappear. You're in this giant colored whirlwind, and you get a bunch of buffs and crazy shit going on. Outside of that, it's very much a similar Marvel vs. Capcom gameplay, but it's a lot easier to control. A lot of the characters use very similar move inputs. So if you can play one of them, you can play a lot of them. And there's an auto combo system in the game, which for a new player is very good. And I was finding I was losing because I wasn't using the auto combo system, because I wasn't doing enough damage. These guys were auto comboing me in midair and doing 6, 7, 8 hit combos and putting a lot of damage. And because I wasn't doing that, I was just losing the health bar game, really. So what I played of it, though, so far has been good. All the matches have been very lag-free. The netcodes felt good. I will say that because there's no cross-play, which is a huge mistake, and I hope they fix that, on PC, you know, half the times I've queued, I haven't found an opponent. But I have been queuing in Beginner's League, so maybe Ranked might have more. But they've got to get cross-play in. Now, cross-play between PC and PS4 for Street Fighter V is the only thing that kept that fucking thing alive. If they don't do that, they're going to be in a lot of trouble very quickly. But I think for all this got blasted during development. It had some really bad showings at shows. There were accusations of pro gamers being bought off to claim they liked it. The showing at E3 sucked. And of course, along comes Dragon Ball Z Fighters and just shits all over it from a great height. Like, it just looks better. But that game's not out till next year. And some of us don't care about Dragon Ball Z. Sorry to tell you this, but we don't.
Blasphemy.
I don't give a shit. So I'm probably not going to play a roster fighter that is all Dragon Ball Z characters. I would play it if it was DBZ versus Capcom or something like that, but I wouldn't play it on its own. But this so far has felt really good. It worked instantly with my hitbox, and all my control inputs were right off the bat. That's a blessing. Don't have to spend an hour fucking around with that. So I think it's a pretty decent fighting game. Like, it's more accessible than a lot of the recent Capcom fighters. The content it's got is a bit shaky. But it's not, you know, they have a story mode, which fucking Street Fighter V didn't at launch, so at least there's that. So it's not too bad. You know, I think a lot of the pre-release hate was just that. It was a bandwagon. And it's turned out to be a pretty solid fighter so far. In my first hour or so of play, I've liked it quite a bit.
That's good.
Not too shabby. Not too shabby at all.
Did you play the story mode at all?
I only played the story mode in the demo, which was crap.
Ooh, the story mode is a thing that needs to be seen. It needs its own Rifftrax, is what it needs.
Is it that bad?
It is. I will say, shout out to the dude who plays Tony Stark for really trying to sound like Robert Downey Jr.
He does. Yeah, I played Iron Man in the multiplayer. I was like, that is really, really close. Yeah.
Yes, the voice acting is like the most hit or miss thing in the world. And sometimes, I'm going to say this now. I know the internet's going to come down on me. I love Ashley Birch. I think she's wonderful.
Why would the internet come down on you for that?
Steve Bloom of video games. She can do ranges. They're literally just be yourself. And so Chun-Li's Ashley Birch, which is like, oh, that's just Ashley Birch. Like, do a voice. Do a thing. Be a voice actor. It drives me crazy. It drives me crazy. Because now that happens to every good ad. Remember, she was Tiny Tina back in the day. Girl can do voices and kill it. And they're like, no, just do the Aloy thing now. And that's like, same with Steve, like Greg DeLeese, like all these voice actors who are known for like the one voice now. It kills me. Cause like, I heard you're real. I know you awesome. Be awesome. Come on, companies.
You gotta be careful not to fall into the Jennifer Hale or Steve Blum trap where you're instantly recognizable because you do the same voice over and over. We're more aware of that these days. Thanks to YouTube, you know, you can see a lot more of games than you otherwise would, and IMDb keeps full track of that. And people are like, oh, what's that? Oh, I know who that person is now. People actually recognize voice actors. So, yeah, you gotta watch out for that.
And it's one of those things where it's like, they're not bad. I'm not complaining that they're bad voice actors. They're so good, in fact, that companies are like lazy as shit. They're like, oh, well, they can do this. Just be yourself. And it's like, but they have a range. Like, put them to work, make them do cool shit. And we don't get that anymore. It sucks, but whatever.
That reminds me of Nolan North as the Ghost. Like, I know Nolan got a lot of shit for being almost the same character and voice in a few different games, but I don't really recognize it in Destiny 2 when he plays the Ghost. Like, it doesn't sound like default Nolan North, so I appreciate that. Right,
like watching them try to take on things like the Joker, right? Like, I'm gonna try and like doing things that you would not expect. You're like, oh shit, that's awesome, is great. And I love to see when voice actors actually get to voice act, and it's not just like, oh yes, it's me, the person you've known from every game, and I'm the exact same voice except with a different body. And it's like, oh, and it's not their fault. It's whoever's directing them's fault. But whatever, fuck it. That's my place.
So, just one last thing about Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. The Collector's Edition shipped, and people were very disappointed. So, the Collector's Edition, $200 Collector's Edition, was supposed to come up with these replica light-up Infinity Stones. Looked like came in a really nice chest, and they were very nice models. Well, the fucking things arrived, and they're basically fucking Easter eggs. Like, people posted photos of them. They look nothing like the render.
Multiple eggs.
It's actually such a... People are so pissed about it. I tweeted about it. It's under a Twitter moment thing. They look like absolute shit. They look really, really bad. So whoever bought that and got little Kinder eggs instead of the $200 good replicas you were supposed to get, and it looks nothing like it. I mean, that's a fucking suing situation.
I'm gonna link this to chat.
Look the render. Look at that render.
Chat. Look at that link. It has both what people got and what was supposedly what you're gonna get. That is.
Oh my god, I'm so ready.
Oh, it's awful. Close. It's so awful. I'll see if I can bring this up on the screen for you.
Wow.
It's just
even the stands that were like Iron Man and Captain Marvel, like even those are low, like shittier versions of what you would have got.
Yeah. So that at the top is that was the promo image of what you were supposed to get. And those Infinity Stones, I was tempted because those Infinity Stones, they look great. That would be a perfect little piece. And this is what you got. What a piece of shit. They're not even the right colors. Two of them look exactly the same. They're both blue.
Say, the colors are all off and everything.
God damn.
Holy shit, that's funny.
But was there chocolate inside?
No, there was no chocolate. You can't remove them.
Well,
they are awful. Yeah,
Wow.
that's a class action lawsuit waiting to happen right there. I would sue for that. Absolutely. It's a $200 collector's edition. You deserve that money back in small claims. Fuck that. That's terrible.
That's great.
Just awful.
This is one of the few collector's editions I was like, I might shell out for this because I love me
I'm
some
so glad I
Infinity
didn't.
Gauntlet sagas, and those look fucking terrible.
I am really glad I did not. Just awful. One last thing I'd like to throw out there, just a couple of minutes on this one before we go to a break and then come back with what little news there is and do some releases. The guys behind Kingdom Rush. A lot of us, Dodge, you play Kingdom Rush. Jesse, I think you play Kingdom Rush.
Love it.
Good game, good game. They decided we're going to make an RTS, and we're going to make it a little touchscreen RTS. And they called it Iron Marines. And a lot of people are comparing it to the StarCraft of like a touchscreen. It's so good. Really good. It's mostly single player, but it has multiplayer as well. Real-time strategy.
Same style and everything too.
Yep.
That looks cool.
Super cool. Iron Marines.
Marines?
Yeah. So it uses the exact same Kingdom Rush art style with the little dinky dudes. But, of course, they're in, like, full power armor and shit like that as well. And it looks great. Like, the art style's really colorful. It almost reminds me of Awesome Naughts in many ways. But
yeah, I was going to say, it reminds me a lot of Awesome Nuts.
yeah, you're getting a lot of that from it.
I can genuinely say I play very few games on my phone / iPad that I never use.
Yeah.
But like Kingdom Rush 1, 2, Frontiers
Yeah.
are phenomenal. Like I love tower defense shits, and I love this game already. I'm in. I want to play this shit so badly.
This looks really cool.
Yeah, Jen played it and loved it. Said, it's very much like if you've played Kingdom Rush, you kind of get the idea. You take little hub areas and then you spawn your units, but it is an RTS, and you have these heroes that level up and gain different abilities. So you control your hero plus the supporting units, and it's definitely got a lot of nods to StarCraft and Starship Troopers and stuff in there. But the colors, it's so colorful and it looks so good, and it controls really well. It's just like drag. It's just drag the touchscreen to do shit. It's great. It's $5. They've done the same thing they did with Kingdom Rush, where their microtransactions are you can unlock new heroes, but you don't need them. Like, you get a bunch of heroes right off the bat anyway.
You never needed to do the microtransactions in the previous games. You never needed to.
Yeah, like you can buy power-ups, but that's, if you want to cheat, I guess. But it doesn't affect the multiplayer in any way. So I'm not too, offended by it. It's a good $5 RTS with a big campaign that works really well on a touchscreen.
That's cool.
I like it. It's very good. Just like, and as I said, if you're a bit worried about the microtransactions, look at what Kingdom Rush did. If you were okay with that, you'll be okay with this. If you weren't okay with that, then of course, maybe avoid it.
You said there's multiplayer, but the microtransactions don't affect it?
Nah, basically, it's only like the hero you choose, and you get a bunch of those for free anyway, and you can unlock them through the game. It just lets you, unlock one quicker if you like. And really, you can build the same units, it's just your hero has, different abilities. That's pretty much it. And they seem pretty well balanced. It's great. Yeah, it's good. Really good. All right, then. We're going to go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll have a look at what news there is. Not a huge amount, but a couple of things that are worth talking about, and then we'll look through the releases. I've been spending the last couple of hours looking at this release list and picking a few things out that look pretty cool, as have the rest of my hosts as well, and we will trudge through the bullshit for you. That is our job. You're watching the Co-optional Podcast. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hit the orange button. Yay! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Co-optional Podcast. To wrap up the news and the releases, we're going to just dive right in. So there's a couple of shows that we hadn't had the chance to talk about yet, because one of them happened after we'd aired, which was Nintendo Direct, and the other one sort of happening about now, which is the Tokyo Game Show, of course. So we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to discuss in brief the recent update that was just posted on the Steam blog about user reviews that just came out about 20 minutes ago. So, hot off the presses, review bombing and all that sort of things. But let's start with Nintendo Direct and what came out of that. So, I think the biggest surprise for a lot of people, of course, was that Doom is coming, and Wolfenstein 2 also coming to Switch, showing that Bethesda's commitment to the console obviously goes beyond just porting Skyrim to it. A lot of people are like, wow, an M-rated game. I mean, that's not actually as uncommon as you think it is. Like, the Wii had quite a lot of M-rated games. You had things like Mad World, you had No More Heroes, and all sorts of things like that. And while Bayonetta 2 was not an M-rated game, it was the first one was, if I recall correctly, and the second one was certainly getting close to it. So it's not like Nintendo has shied away from M-rated in their history. I don't know why they've got that
It's just
reputation
nice to see them
recently.
do it though. That's great.
Yeah, it's good. I'll be interested. It's just a case of like, it's nice to see third parties saying, oh, portability is a selling point. Let's make our games portable because there's now a system that people can buy that does that. That's good for everybody. I won't play Doom on the Switch. I don't have any interest in that, but there are definitely other games that I certainly would play on the Switch. Is there anything that stood out to any of you from the Nintendo Direct that was particularly interesting? Jesse, I think there was some Fire Emblem stuff.
Octopath Traveler.
Octopath, yes.
Oh, I've played some of that. Just a
That game is going to be the hotness. I can't wait.
So why is that?
Yeah, in the demo you can play either the dancer, I want to say, or you can play the knight or warrior or whatever he's called. There are lots of different characters that you can play the game as, and each one of them has a completely different storyline. And they all have like a really strong ability. So I started playing as the knight, and his ability is he can challenge anyone in the game to a duel and kill them, including like old ladies in town. So you can, in the starting area, you could go to every single person in that town and be like, I challenge you to a duel, and they have to say yes. It's so funny.
So just, can we give some context to people that don't know what this game is, as to what all that's about? Like, what kind of game is it? What genre?
It's an RPG.
It's an RPG, and it's done in a 2D, 3D art style, so the sprites are like Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy V sprites, but the world is like this 3D. It is visually stunning. It looks awesome. And then the game itself the gameplay is like active time battle, turn-based battles, and then the story, I don't know much about the story, but I know that there are multiple characters, and each character has a different way you can play the game, and the way to, like, the dancer, I believe the dancer is just like flirting. Is that like her ability? I think
she can charm people. Yeah,
like there's a lot of different ways of playing it. It reminds me, we were just talking about this the other day, and I can't remember, and I'm hoping chat will give me an answer to this. There was an old game that the way the game played is it was an RPG where you play as one character, and when you died, you play the game, you wouldn't get like continued, that character would be dead for good, and then you play the game from another perspective of another character. And I cannot remember the name of that game, but it was an old PlayStation game, and we were just talking about the other day. But like I like that it has that kind of vibe to it, where it's like you're experiencing this world through different eyes every time you play as a different character. There's a lot here that seems really cool.
Isn't Octopath? Did I hear the Octopath game was made by the Setsuna guys, or was I mistaken on that?
No, it's not them.
Oh, that's something else they're making, isn't it? All right, cool.
Yeah, no, that's Lost Sphere, I think is the name of that one.
Yes,
right.
That was the one. Yeah.
And that one's a ton of fun too. That's a super cool game. It plays just like I Am Setsuna.
Okay. Anything else that caught your eye during Nintendo Direct?
I even remember what they said during.
There was new Pokemons, a bunch of new Pokemons, and what else? God, what else was there?
Yeah,
it wasn't a massively noteworthy show. There was like no huge announcement. Like, when a port of a 2-year-old FPS is the biggest news of your show, it's probably not a very big show.
Oh, new Kirby game.
Yes.
That for anybody who loves Kirby.
It was a weird one.
Kirby
they
Star Allies.
Yeah, Megastar Allies or something like that. They're porting this. Apparently, I've never heard of this damn thing. There's a really popular Chinese League of Legends clone. And I say that because you look at the two things, they look almost identical. That apparently is getting ported to Switch. It's super popular in China, and they're bringing that to Switch, which is weird, obviously, because the controls would be hard to do. I don't know exactly what the name is. All I know is the name was very similar to League of Legends. So, but apparently they're bringing that, and that's going to be a pretty big deal for the Asian territories.
The Kirby game is Kirby Battle Royale. Just to add on to our Battle Royale conversation from before.
Why not? Yeah.
The 3DS Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga Plus has Bowser's Minions added onto it, where you play the game through as a Goomba, which I think is awesome. Little things like that I think are cool. I don't know. There's a lot of talk about Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but I could literally care less. yeah, I don't know what else.
When's
was there?
when's
not a lot.
Skyrim coming out? When's Skyrim releasing?
Why
When
do
do
you
I get
why do you
Skyrim?
care?
I don't know. Portable Skyrim. I'll try that.
You can already do that. Like, there's a bunch of devices that can run that damn thing. It's
Fire Emblem
nothing new.
Warriors comes out. It comes out right when I leave. That's gonna be my playing game. All right, I gotta.
I just mostly think it's funny that you can utter the sentence, "When is Skyrim releasing?" in 2017.
When is the TI-86 calculator version coming out? Yeah. All right. Well, I think that our safe conclusion on that one is the Nintendo Direct didn't really do anything because we're struggling to come up with anything. So let's move on. Jesse, you were getting all excited over TGS this morning, I believe.
Yeah, Tokyo Game Show. Last night, overnight, a bunch of news came out from the Sony press conference, and everyone like lost their shit because a lot of interesting things were announced. Right off the bat, playable right now, Final Fantasy IX is re-released for PlayStation 4, and it's like updated and everything. Like, that's crazy. It's out now, and no
Okay.
one had a clue. So that exists already. We got a new trailer for Shadow of Colossus PS4. So that is a phenomenal game, and I can't wait to play the remaster or remake or whatever. I guess it's a remake, not a remaster. So that's gonna be dope as fuck. Then we got Zone of Enders. They're doing a VR supported remaster, which okay. And speaking of VR, they're doing this is another okay. They're doing Neko Atsume Cat Collecting Sim
VR
in VR. Now, I know of this game because everyone in this office plays that goddamn thing. And
I
now
haven't
there's
played it in over a year, but yes.
And then things like Dragon's Crown and Dissidia. But the thing that really blew people away, besides Monster Hunter has a release date, which is January 26th, and everyone was like freaking out over that because that game's gonna be the tits. The big thing people are interested in, and no one really knows what this is gonna be. There is a game called Left Alive.
Yep.
It's a survival action shooter by the Armored Core director and the guy who did all the character designs for Metal Gear, Yoji Shinkawa, I think his name is. Like, literally, it's like the guys who worked on Metal Gear and Xenoblade Chronicles X, I think, are working on this, and the trailer doesn't really show anything. I don't know what the hell this game is going to be, but the artwork for the poster looks like a Metal Gear game. So like, people are losing their minds over this, and it could be something really special. So I have no clue what's happening, but it's the Tokyo Game Show, and this is the time every year where they show like fucking crazy shit, and people are just like, what? So
I'll tell you something that they announced, which has flown under the radar quite a bit. Dragon's Crown Pro. So they're porting Dragon's Crown to PS4. 4K. That game in 4K is going to be fucking gorgeous.
Those are going to be some boobies.
And honestly, the game had frame rate problems on both the systems it was released on initially, PS3 and on PS Vita. So I will buy Dragon's Crown happily on PS4 Pro, and some lovely 4K Dragon's Crown action. Yep, I'm all in on that. Sounds great.
And I think it makes, especially for people who don't give a shit about Monster Hunter, because that comes out the day before Monster Hunter comes out. So if you don't give a shit about Monster Hunter, that's gonna be your jam.
Oh yeah, January 25th. Yeah, so that is quite the length of time. Okay, interesting. Yeah, they're doing a Zone of Enders remaster with VR support as well, apparently.
I'm hoping we'll get some more news as time goes on this week of releases and things coming out from TGS, but yeah,
we'll definitely hear about more than that. Yeah.
Yeah, the problem is for us, it's while we're all sleeping. So you wake up
comes out of nowhere.
Like, what? So, but it's awesome. TGS is. I've always wanted to go. I hear it's wild as shit. I've always wanted to go experience it.
Yeah, they did a new announcement for Earth Defense Force.
Is there one?
It's a new game. Yeah. So 7 hours ago, Earth Defense Force Iron Rain was announced. It is yes, there is. There's an announcement trailer for it. Let me see if I can pull that up on YouTube if they happen to have it. They probably have it somewhere. I could show you. It looks like it's a spin-off of some sort because they're already working on new EDF. So it looks like there's something a bit different about this one. Let's have a quick gander. Yep, that.
People are saying it's supposed to be a serious one. I don't believe it.
I also kind of hope not because that sounds really boring. It certainly looks a lot more serious, but. Yeah, so this is the trailer. Obviously, this is all like pre-rendered, so
I just want to see the combat. Yeah, let's go trailer. Oh my god, you got the little angel ladies.
Yep. Yeah, wing divers. Yep, they're in there. Okay. Yep, that does look a little more serious, as you were saying.
But you're still fighting giant cockroaches and ants and shit. So I'll wait and see what happens, because all the trailers seemed very over the top and serious.
It definitely looks a lot better. You know, they're obviously using a new engine there and some new effects. It still looks like a lot of fun. Wow, aim down sights. That's new. I haven't seen that in an EDF game before. So it looks all right. Yeah, I hope they don't go super serious with it, because that would ruin the whole fucking thing, in my opinion. It's a giant, crazy B movie where you fight giant space ants with huge guns. So
that was the charm of it, of how ridiculous it was.
Yeah, so I'm not hugely keen on them going super serious with it. I just kind of hope that they decide not to do it. I'm seeing if there's any other details on it. Yeah.
Although you still can get in mechs and shit, which looks awesome.
It's got all the vehicles. Yeah, the only thing otherwise we know that it's on a new engine and it's kind of shiny. So we'll see how it turns out. I think that's about it for the Tokyo Game Show. So moving on, this is hot off the presses.
Uh-oh.
So there's been quite a lot of controversy last few weeks about review bombing. So people have been bringing up the subject because it's something that's been happening for quite some time on both Metacritic and on Steam. And recently, of course, we have seen it with Firewatch. So Steam has obviously heard enough to respond to it. And there's a big blog post out right now. I'm going to send it to you so you guys can read it, about what they're planning on doing about it. And I've read the whole thing, and it seems like a very Valve way of doing it. I think it's a pretty good way of doing it. So they discuss in detail, look, what is review bombing? Now, review bombing is where a bunch of people deliberately go and rate a game badly for some reason. And what they do is then they upvote all of the reviews that agree with them and downvote all the ones that don't. So you end up having a review, the user reviews just covered in negativity very quickly for a game. And sometimes it's review bombing for very legitimate reasons. For the Chinese really like to review bomb games that don't get proper Chinese translations around launch. And
interesting.
They've actually used it successfully to apply pressure to companies to get those Mandarin translations out quickly. So that obviously worked. That's good. That's a consumer activism for good. When games make really shitty changes, there's a lot of review bombing goes on there. And sometimes we see companies respond to that and fix them. That's also good. Then there are some times when review bombs happen for reasons that really have nothing to do with the game. Which is what Firewatch is. You know, Firewatch's gameplay has nothing to do with the current controversy. It's irrelevant. So a lot of devs have been a bit pissy about this, saying, oh, well, it's not fair that our game gets slammed for this. And then, of course, consumers have fired back saying, well, you have the right to express our opinions. And you damn right you do if you're a paying customer. So this blog discusses all like the options. Like, well, we turned score off. You know, I was really disappointed they didn't just decide to do this. Like, if we took score out of the equation, it would fix it. It was like, yes! And then, like, we're not going to do that. Ugh. God damn it. If you actually did that and forced people, because they're like, this will force people to read the reviews. What a shocking concept. But apparently they don't want to do that. Okay. So they said, well, maybe we let devs temporarily shut down reviews. Well, that's a really bad idea, because obviously if you make a fuck your game up and then shut your review section down, people can't complain about it. That's terrible.
Right.
So they said, no, we're not doing that. So what they've decided to do is they have decided instead to do something which they said they were going to do when I went to have a meeting with them. They were very big into this whole big data idea. They want to show what's inside the black box. That's their terminology, not mine, because that makes me slightly nauseous to hear. But they've got all this data, and they want to show it to the user in a way that the user is informed and educated with it and can use it in useful ways. And sites like Steam Spy could do analysis on it and figure things out. What they said is, we're now going to put a histogram of the game's ratings on the page with the game. So it shows the number of reviews over time and how many were positive and how many were negative. And the goal is to allow Steam viewers, especially over time, like say, in a few months, all this shit about Firewatch will be forgotten. Is there still going to be negative reviews dropping on it or not? Probably not. People have moved on to the next drama. So someone is now going to be able to see a few months ago some bullshit happened, but it's probably irrelevant now. And that's also relevant for games that make a mess on a patch. People review bomb the game because the patch was bad, and then they're like, oh, sorry guys, we're going to fix it, and then the reviews go up again. So I think this is a very sensible approach. I think this is maybe the most sensible approach they can do without, getting into the arguments of restricting consumer free speech and the ability of consumers who paid money for the game to complain about the game that they bought. What do you guys reckon about this whole situation and review bombing in general?
Did you happen to see if that's going to replace the mostly positive, mostly negative, like spectrum thing? Or is it just in addition to it?
It's in addition to it.
Okay.
So there's a little screenshot of how it's going to work. Like overall reviews or recent reviews are going to have that mostly positive, very positive thing. And then over time, it's going to have this histogram showing the bars of like, which days did this happen? How many reviews were there over time and all that kind of thing.
Right.
I think that, I think that's a very good option. I think it's very sensible. Empower the consumer with that data, because the problem with review bombing to me is that it makes reviews less useful to consumers. Because all this shit might be about something nobody cares about. It has nothing to do with the game. And that makes user reviews worthless.
I guess the tough part's going to be people are going to see this. They're going to see this histogram is what it's called.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to unless Steam surfaces recent trending topics on the game to coincide with dates where review bombing is happening, people will see this and then they're going to have to research why it happened. Is it because the game became shit, or is it because of some internet war against the developer?
Yeah.
So that's kind of I guess it adds an extra level of complexity, but that's only if people want to get that information. So
yeah, some people just don't care. Even just looking at the histogram, if you see, there were a bunch of negative reviews 3 months ago, but it's getting positive reviews now, that's kind of all the information you need. And really, if you're going to drop $60 on a game, you really should be researching it a bit. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I just appreciate that in the end they were like, you guys are smart, right? Like we don't need to make it so that people can't do whatever they're going to do. We just make it so that you have more information to base your purchase off of.
Yes.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to do it. Silencing the ability of consumers on the store to provide reviews isn't so good. There is one thing I would like to see added. So when you refund a game, your review, by the way, stays on the page. Now, I don't want that taken away, but I would like that a review to be marked with user refunded the game. Because it's possible for a bunch of people to brigade a game, all 1,000 people buy the game on 0 hours or whatever, review bomb the shit out of it, and then refund it. That's imminently abusable. Those reviews should be flagged as these guys refunded it, and then you can clearly see 0 hours refunded, where in that case you didn't even play it. Your review's not worth shit. So I'd like to see that. I think that's the only real problem with it. Everything else, I think, looks really, really good about this. I like this idea.
It does always say on a review how many hours the person played, though, right?
It does, yes. And
so
some
if it
people
says
pay
0
attention
hours,
to that.
then
Usually, yes.
The problem is, though, if people review bomb it enough to go to negative, no one's going through and manually checking all those reviews and the number of hours attached to those reviews.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
They just-
I look
Yeah.
at that all the time. I look at the amount of hours that people play games all the
Almost
time.
nobody.
Yeah.
No, but I guess my point is you'll probably scroll through and read a few, but if there are thousands of reviews on a review bomb that recently tanked a game's overall score, most people aren't going to check all reviews. And
No.
they'll
probably see the highest rated ones. But I think this is more of a long-term strategy. Because, as I said, a few months down the line, no one's going to remember this Firewatch shit. And when someone goes to buy Firewatch, they're going to clearly see on that graph, there was some bullshit that happened 3 months ago, but the game's getting positive reviews again now. And that applies to any game that fucks up with a patch and does something that people don't like, and it gets bombed for that legitimately. That is a legitimate form of consumer protest. I'm never going to say otherwise. The main concern I've got with it is that if you misuse it, then you're making reviews less useful for everybody. This, I think, is about the valviest Valve solution I've ever seen. But you know what? In this case, I think they're right. It's a good way to do it.
In general, I think it goes back to how at times worthless user reviews can be because of the motivations behind people who tend to leave reviews in the first place. If it's not a professional thing,
Yes.
Right.
It's like reviews on Yelp. It's they're going to be mostly shit because it's only the pissed off people who leave that. So
Yeah, but you still need them,
Right, for sure.
Here's an example. I actually wanted to talk about this week, even though it's nothing to do with video games. Did any of you watch the first episode of The Orville?
No.
No.
Okay, one, do, especially if you're into Star Trek. Secondly, this is one of the biggest, massive examples between a massive disconnect between the critics and the users I have ever seen. If you check out Metacritic or Rotten Tomatoes right now, this show is like 70% critical rating on Rotten Tomatoes, but its user score is like in the 80s and 90s. Metacritic, it's 36. User score, 8.1. There is a huge difference. And you read the reviews, and you see the user reviews. They wanted something that was like Star Trek, with the optimism of Star Trek, but with kind of, instead of everybody being paragons of humanity, being kind of more regular Joes. That's what the Orville is. And me, as a fucking Star Trek fan, as much as I can be a fan of anything, and the Enterprise is still shit, but, that show aside and its stupid theme song, this is the most Star Trek-y Star Trek show that wasn't Star Trek that I've ever seen. It's seriously like that, but the critics hammered the shit out of it. Like, they were calling it self-indulgent and self-congratulatory, and it's like, it's a vanity project. Like, what has that got anything to do with the show? Like, it doesn't matter. It's like, it doesn't work as comedy. It's not a comedy show. It's just... It's a sci-fi show with some jokes. Thank fuck it's not Family Guy in space. It would suck. I love this show. I absolutely loved the premiere. It was exactly what I wanted. It's like, this is Star Trek through and through, but this time they've got a crew of people who, they're not following strict protocol and military discipline, and they're the best that humanity has to offer. They're on a mid-level ship. They're kind of good at their jobs mostly, and they're trying their best. That's the show, in a nutshell.
Right.
And it's great for that. It's great. But you see that massive disconnection between those two things, and that, in those situations, that's where user score is useful.
But I think it also comes down to that show's marketing. That show was, like, promoted as a comedy.
Which they should not have done, because it isn't. It's totally not. It's got some jokes in it. It's not the main thing at all. Fox fucked up the marketing of that entirely. But I think that this show is going to get a bit of a cult following, because the word of mouth amongst people that like Star Trek and sci-fi are going to say, no, this isn't a comedy, this is totally Star Trek with regular Joes. That's the show. And it's good at that.
So it'll maybe get a season, and then they'll cancel it because Fox.
I know. And it would suck, because I really enjoyed the premiere episode. I would recommend everyone check it out on Hulu. If you got Hulu, go check it out. You might be pleasantly surprised by how good that show is. Like to hear back from you next week what you think. But yeah,
we're currently finally watching Rick and Morty, which is a fantastically nihilistic, awful show, and we love it.
I heard that. Yeah, I haven't watched it yet. My son watches it. I don't know. I might watch it at some point.
That show is hella dark, man, and I love it. Every single episode, I'm like, Jesus Christ.
I'm not sure I want that. Like, I found that with BoJack Horseman. Like, I was like about halfway through the first season. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to watch this. This is too depressing.
That's what JP was saying. I was talking with JP about it, and he was like, I actually fucking hate BoJack Horseman because it's just so depressing, and like, I don't need that.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
I mean, at least Rick and Morty's constantly cracking jokes. Versus something like Black Mirror, it's like, oh wow, the future looks horrible.
Yeah, I know. You gotta be in the right frame of mind to watch Black Mirror. I love Black Mirror, but holy fuck.
Yeah.
Dude, I've only watched the first couple of episodes of that show because it just like put me in a terrible frame of mind. And Kristen was like, no, there's one episode that you have to watch that's actually like an okay episode and it's really positive. And I was like, I don't believe you.
Okay, that's one. Awesome. It's like where I bailed on Breaking Bad because it's too stressful. I can't handle it anymore. It's just too much sometimes.
When people were telling me about Black Mirror, they were billing it as like a modern day Twilight Zone. I was like, Twilight Zone was fun to watch.
Nah, it was more like Outer Limits.
It's not Twilight Zone.
It's Outer Limits.
No.
Way more serious, way more dark. Twilight Zone was B-movie. Outer
way
Limits.
More grounded in like potential reality,
right?
Too,
That's where,
which is what is freaky about it.
Yeah, it's fucking scary.
It's not like, oh my gosh, there's a lady who's being attacked by aliens, but holy shit, the aliens were us the whole time. Like it's never that.
Or this like in the enslaved forced to watch ads episode.
Oh god,
like so incredibly depressing.
The fucking social media episode where you literally rate your interactions with people and your rating determines what houses you can have and who you're. Oh god, it's like that could fucking happen.
That's too real.
That's
too
half
real.
the way here already. Fuck me.
Remember the guy who just wanted to read a book. The world ended, and all the time in the world.
Oh, man.
And his glasses broke. Now that's an episode.
Oh, that was horrible.
And all the time in the world.
I remember that. It was awful.
You mean great?
Yes,
And
great, but also horrible.
There's something on the wing. Those were great shows.
There's something on the wing.
I think it was.
I think the episode of Old Twilight Zone that fucked me up the most was the one where the guy found the stopwatch that could stop time, and he was like, "Holy shit, I can steal whatever I want." And so he goes on like this bender, stealing everybody's shit, and he has so much stuff in his arms that he drops the watch and it breaks, and he can never start time again.
Yeah.
And so he's like, the end of the episode is him desperately trying to get people to respond to him, and they can't because they're frozen forever. And I was like,
You know what needs to return? We need Tales from the Crypt back. That was
dude,
a good
I love
that
Tales
was
from
a
the
good
Crypt
show.
too.
I'd be so happy to see that.
I
Another great
love
one.
the crypt. Greetings, boys.
Yes.
Boys and ghouls.
Oh, I think they could totally do a nice modern spin on that. That would
Yeah,
really well.
that'd be great.
It was,
It has to be just as campy and silly
yes.
Yeah.
as it was. Absolutely.
But maybe throw a little bit of edge in there just to see what you can do with it. You can still have it be campy and silly because
Yeah,
Black
he has,
Mirror is to some extent as well.
one earring.
Yeah.
He's totally
or
edgy.
two earrings.
Ooh, two. He has a nose ring. Hello, it's me, the Crypt Keeper. I've got a nose ring now.
I'm hip with the kids.
I think it was.
I'll take a return of Goosebumps. Even I don't care. Whatever.
You're like 35. It's like, come
and,
on.
And I watched Goosebumps as a kid, and I'd like to see a new updated version.
I'm
of
not
it.
sure it would hold up. I don't think it would.
Call up R.L. Stein. Let him know I'd like to see more Goosebumps.
Let me choose my own adventure, please.
God.
I never watched Goosebumps or read the books, but I did love Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Go back.
Oh, yeah.
Go back, watch Goosebumps, and recognize that there are a lot of famous actors in those.
Really?
Like
Really?
people who became really. Ryan Gosling isn't one of the things. Like straight up, just like, oh yeah, go back and watch those and get your mind fucking blown. What? What?
I just love the intro. Bump, 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 bump. And then there's like a lab in an attic. Like as a kid, I was terrified. I watched it as an adult. I'm like, it's just a cute dog, like with glowy eyes. What's the big deal?
All right, let's get off of this subject because we have 10
yeah.
minutes to do. We have the releases to do, and this is completely off topic. We're not going any further here.
Okay,
All
fine.
right, we have indulged enough for this show. Thank you very much. Okay,
well,
releases, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, for today, September 19th. There's a game called Mystic Melee that looks kind of cool. It's a platformer, and there are lots of different characters, and the trailer looks fun. Like all the different characters that you can choose from have different like abilities and stuff.
Yeah, it looked all right.
That looks kind of interesting. Is it like a battle? Do you fight each other?
I have no idea.
Okay, cool.
Good. So I'm glad we know very little about that.
Fight and Rage looks like a brawler.
Yeah,
side-scrolling brawler. That looks cool.
that looked pretty cool. Definitely, if you're into your Streets of Rage. I mean, the influence is fucking obvious in it on this one, but yeah, it's called Fight and Rage, and it's getting some pretty positive reception so far. Old school side scroll, whatever the fuck that is. Also, one of the characters, a giant bull. Co-op mode with up to 3 players and multiple paths. That's my jam. The art style looks really nice. It's very crisp, colorful. They got that fake CRT thing going on, which I hope I can turn off. But hey, there is that. There was a couple of other things that came out today that looked interesting. One, Echo. This looks pretty interesting. It's kind of a they're just calling it a sci-fi adventure, but it looks like a kind of sci-fi stealth action-y kind of thing with an interesting UI.
And wow, oh, visually it looks cool.
Yeah, look at the it's like almost like a little bit of Super Hot and a little bit of Deus Ex in there for good measure. Definitely looks like there's some stealth action shit going on.
Interesting, yeah.
You create echoes, exact copies of you in every way that can behave like you and only do the things you do. So the way you play the game shapes your enemy. If you sprint soon, the echoes will get faster. So the echoes, I guess you fight the echoes. So the enemy's going to change and adapt to what you do.
Dude, this game looks crazy.
It does.
Cool idea.
I'm gonna go check this out. There's another one that came out today that slipped right under the radar, which is by the guys that make Grow Home. It's called Atomega, published by Ubisoft. And this time around, they decided to make a sort of first-person multiplayer arena shooter kind of thing with these customizable robots that you build out of blocks.
I have a game.
Next game.
You have a video game for us. Is it a real video game?
There's a game called The Caribbean Sail, and it's like Oregon Trail, except you're crossing the Atlantic.
Yeah, that was supposed to be out last week. We covered it then.
Was it? I don't remember it.
Yeah. It was just passing mention.
Those games that
Either way, it's
keep
cute.
getting released every week.
Yeah, they get pushed back, so they end up on the damn release list again.
But last week, did we talk about deep, dark fantasies?
Nope. We did not. We did not. I don't know that we're going to talk about it this week.
No, we're not. We're not going to give promotion to that shit.
Okay, fine.
Duger, you became me for a minute. What happened?
I mean, it's a game where a bunch of dudes are in bondage wrestling each other. So.
Yeah, so that's that. Anything else came out?
There are a bunch of boob games. I don't know if Jesse's bringing those
which
up.
we're not covering.
Where are those at? What are they called?
It's the same bullshit. You know
Love,
that.
Love. We talked about that last week.
It's just all shitty visual novels. Like, if you come up with a boob game that's interesting, we'll cover it. But I am sick to death of like, ooh, boobs. Again, another 20 games with that in it.
I'll never say that. I'll never say that.
You can get way better porn on the internet. Don't spend money on any of this shit.
Boobs. You have my word.
Get some real boobs. There are plenty available on the internet for free. You do not need to pay for them.
I will never say ooh boobs. You have my word.
I'm sure there are some situations where you would, and we could find them for you.
I will never in a million years.
Assetto Corsa Ferrari 70th Anniversary Pack comes out today. If you happen to be into the racing sim genre, that is one of them, certainly. Is there anything else good out today on PC? I think that was pretty much it for PC, mostly. For your console releases, ports of the Big Burly Men at Sea for PS4 and Vita, Afterbirth Plus, Binding of Isaac for PS4, Thimbleweed Park is on iPhone, Switch, and Android today, and Blackguards 2 is on PS4, and it looks like we're also getting Shopkeep on PS4 as well, which some people quite liked. Yep, so that's the release for September the 19th. September the 20th.
On the 20th, there's a game called Grave Chase.
Grave Chase.
That looks fun. Yeah.
Okay, let's have a quick gander at that. Okay, so why does that look fun then?
I don't know. It just looks fun to me.
Retro 2D horror action adventure game.
Yeah. You're swiping at shits.
Okay.
And you're in a
graveyard by any chance? God damn it.
I was looking for the word cemetery.
Right. Do we need to reboot you? Is there something wrong with it today? God damn it. There was something here today that looked kind of cool. Can I even remember what it was? Obviously, it didn't look that cool if I can't remember it. Oh, yes. The beta of access version of Mordhau is coming out, which for some reason I don't think is on Steam right now, but that is the we're going to be a better chivalry game.
Right.
So that might be worth paying attention to.
Morfight looks kind of cool. It's an
Morfight?
FPS. Yeah.
Casual atmospheric FPS inspired by the classics, whatever that means. Oh, so it's inspired by classic FPS, which involves researching plants. Right, I don't remember that in my Quake, but okay. It does look pretty neat. You're right. Looks all right. I think that's about it for...
Yeah, I've clicked on everything else.
So yeah, September 20th. September the 21st... Oh, there was one thing. Monsters and Medicine on September the 20th looks pretty neat. It is a kind of tycoon and puzzle game. It's a turn-based puzzle game where you have to expand your monster hospital. And you also have to injure monsters that are knocking at the door... While injured monsters knock at the door wanting treatment. So it's a weird puzzle shuffle tycoon management game that involves running a monster hospital. I thought that was kind of cool. So it's that. September 21st.
We have Hold Fast, Nations at War.
Yeah, this looked pretty interesting.
Off of all of the upcoming naval combat multiplayer thing games. This says competitive multiplayer first and third person shooter set during the Great Napoleonic Era.
Yeah, and, but there's
125 player count on the server.
Yeah, this is a more of a infantry game, not a ship game. There's obviously been the Napoleonic Wars stuff with Mountain Blade is quite popular. Looks like they're trying to make a game with that. I don't know if there's also naval combat. It looks like there is. This does look interesting. Yeah.
I mean, no matter how janky it looks, I'll jump into a 125 player count server and see what happens.
Yeah.
I love the look of it. I love the look of it. I hope it's good. Yeah, this looks like it could be a blast if they execute it correctly.
Oh, shit. There's a super risque version of Honey Pop called Mirror.
What?
It's basically Honey Pop, except it's like...
Do I want to even show this?
12.
Nope, I don't.
Demons.
That's garbage.
God, added to wish list.
Not showing that garbage.
Whoa, that's super. Oh, but look, like Cleopatra. Whoa, never mind.
That shot is up close and personal.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Not showing it. Ain't happening. Would like to keep my channel intact. Heat signature.
A game that
Heat signature.
You can't show. Darkestville Castle is
or not. Darkestville Castle. Okay.
Darkestville Castle is a point and click where you play as the bad guy and you're trying to actively kill the heroes who are there to get you, which is very cute.
Like any decent demon. There's some really nice art in that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah, so you're playing
nice.
Sid, the Demon of Darksville. Heat signature. Because Dan will kill us if we don't fucking mention this. He's been on this damn thing for weeks. It's finally coming out. This is the game by the guys that made that made Gunpoint. And it is a game where you break into spaceships, make terrible mistakes, and think of clever ways to escape. And you can do all sorts of things like, oh god, I've got to leave the ship out of the airlock in my spacesuit. Can I somehow figure out a way to get to safety before I die? And all that kind of stuff. Use gadgets and distract, ambush, take out the crew, take over the ship. Yeah, this is probably going to be a bunch of fun. And I like the theme a lot more than Gunpoint. So I'm all in on this one. There's a game called Ancient Frontier that looked pretty cool. Ironically, it's called Ancient Frontier, but it's clearly in space. It's a turn-based strategy where you can command a large and massive fleet of capital ships, which is I'm all into that. You know me when it comes to...
That sounds like a you game.
That's a me game, yeah. So I'll look like that. Looks like it's mostly a hex-based game. That was all that... Oh, there's another Lost Phone game, apparently?
Yes, yeah, a sequel, I think.
It's called Another Lost Phone Laura's Story. Spiritual sequel to a normal Lost Phone. Dodge, I think you played a normal Lost Phone, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
You into that?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, the first one was good.
Nice. September the 22nd, Project Cars 2. As we were mentioning, for those into the racing sim genre, these are big daddies in that. So that is the latest and greatest in that respect. I would assume this had VR support right off the bat, but yes, it does. Yeah, so big VR, super accurate racing game.
There's a game called Touch My Spinner that's a fucking fidget spinner
Oh,
game.
I saw it.
Nope,
I
not
saw
wasting
it.
time on this shit. Nope, fuck that.
No.
Nope. Don't even give it the time of day.
Touch my spinner, please.
Steampunk Syndicate 2. It's another steampunk tower defense game. God, wasn't the last one of this out like last week? It does look like a pretty good tower defense game, but I'm almost certain we saw the prequel to this last week. Let's see. The
Figment.
Figment. What's that all about?
It is an action adventure game, but it looks awesome. Visually, looks very interesting and weird.
Yep. Sure as hell does that. As to what you do, that's a different matter entirely, but visually, that looks pretty great. There is the Raiders of the Broken Planet prologue is coming out, a game that we did not enjoy when we played it multiplayer, so I certainly hope they fix that. We did not get along with that at all. No, we were unhappy with that one. SteamWorld Dig 2. That's a huge deal. The SteamWorld developers are really awesome. And they're bringing out their latest game that is coming to Switch, PC, PS4, and PlayStation Vita on the 22nd. So don't miss out on that one. I wasn't so keen on SteamWorld Dig compared to SteamWorld Heist, which is a very different kind of game. But I'm looking forward to trying the second one and see if I maybe like this one a little bit better. So it's got a bit more Spelunky-esque stuff going on. And there's mining and crafting and stuff like that. So... All right, I don't think there's really anything else on the 22nd that looked particularly interesting. So we can mostly avoid that. And the 23rd, nothing really there either, actually. Nothing that I saw.
Yeah.
Anybody see anything else on the list that was worth looking at?
Anything on the 23rd?
No, I didn't either. The 25th would be the last day. 24th actually has no games on it, according to this list.
There is something, I guess, that's coming out.
What's that?
It's called Undarkened. I mean, it looks kind of bad, but I figure I'd mention it because it's a PvE PvP magic survival game.
Looking kind of bad. Jesus.
Yeah, looking kind of bad.
Yeah,
but,
that looks horrendous, actually.
People like early access survival games, so here's one with magic in it, guys.
They sure as hell did that. Wasn't the one that came out a few weeks ago that Strippin and Krendor played a lot of that they were kind of into? That looks a shit ton better than this?
Yeah, I mean, it's janky like all these games are, but anyways, I
disagree
figured
with
I'd
that
mention
one.
it because people love their early access survival games.
Yep. Sadly, they do. Let's see.
25th?
On
What
the
you got?
25th, there's a game called Ablepsia, where you play a blind old man who's trying to bring light back to the streets or something.
Okay. I cannot spell whatever that is, so I can't find it.
Ablepsia.
Oh, Ableep. I thought it was epilepsy or something. No.
Ablepsia.
Ablepsia or whatever? Yeah. Okay. All right. There's a walking simulator if you've ever seen one. Jesus. I think that's about it. September the 26th is next Tuesday, isn't it? Yeah, so we're not going to... There's a bunch of releases there, but we're not going to cover that till next week.
Okay.
There was a game called Dwarf Corp that came on the 23rd. I was... anything with Corp and Dwarf in it sounds good. Ruthless Capitalist Dwarves. Oh, this sounds like yet another attempt to make like an easier Dwarf Fortress kind of thing. I wonder if this is by the same guy that made the Gnome one. What, Gnomeria? Or Gnomeria or whatever? Because it looks really similar to that.
Interesting, yeah.
It is kind of a Dungeon Keeper / Dwarf Fortress-like game. It is early access, so I'd rather wait for it to come out, but this does look pretty neat, actually. Yeah, I like that.
Not bad looking.
Yeah,
Cool style.
Cool. I think that's about it, release-wise. Nothing, I don't think we missed anything hugely interesting. I'm sure chat will point out if we didn't. If we did, which they probably will. Oh yeah, when's Pokken DX out? Is that we saw? Oh god, that was the 22nd. How the fuck did we miss that? Yeah, Pokken DX for Nintendo Switch on the 22nd. Yes. Yeah, that'll be about it. Yeah. Cool. That's about it. Thank you for the Co-optional podcast today. Thank you very much for watching, and big thanks to our sponsor Audible. Head over to audible.com/cynical for your free audiobook. Jesse, what's going on in your channel this week? What's going on?
Oh my goodness. This week we're going to have the continuation of a few Scary Game Squad things, as well as some fun looks into games like man, God, we've got Tooth and Tail and a game called Lust for Darkness and a bunch of other things
so
happening
good
this week. So brace your butts.
We should play a few matches of Tooth and Tail. I've been enjoying it a lot.
Sure.
I think I'm playing.
Played it.
Oh, it's so good. So very, very good. Dodger, what are you got coming up this week?
Come watch me on Twitch at DexBonus. And the live show of Nebula Jazz happened this weekend, and it's 8 hours of goofs if you'd like to watch that. And finally going to start putting little highlight clips back up on my channel, so those will be coming back this week. And just general shenanigans if you'd like to hang out. That's
very cool. Force, thank you very much for spending your time this week to talk to us.
Pleasure.
Yeah, it's been great as always to have you back on. What are you up to this week? What's coming to your channel and your stream?
Twitch is twitch.tv/Force Gaming. You can find my YouTube at Force Gaming YT for YouTube. YouTube channel is still mostly Overwatch because that's what my viewer base likes to watch. I've been splashing some other stuff in. I'm playing a lot of Destiny, so I'm making some of those videos as well. And on Twitch, I'm just doing the Destiny endgame thing. I'll be raiding this week, farming more gear, and beyond that, I play a lot of PUBG with the Chuckle Fucks, Krendor, Jimmer, and King Benji. That's a lot of fun.
So they're not kidding about that.
They're the Chuckle Fucks.
Chuckle Fucks, Jesse.
That is a self-given name. I had no.
It is a real term. It is a real thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very good name for them. Very good.
It sums them up pretty well. Yeah.
It is something.
Thanks for having me.
No doubt about it. As for me this week, probably won't see too much, but if you missed all of the Warhammer, I mean, we played like 10 hours of Total War Warhammer 2. All the VODs are up. I'm going to run a vodcast pretty much after the show, I think. I'm gonna do them in order. So I'm gonna run 1, 2, and 3 directly after the show's done, and I think those are starting to make their way up on the unofficial YouTube channel. So if you are not a subscriber, you'll be able to catch them there. Outside of that, probably won't be putting out a huge amount of content this week. Hopefully we're back on the horse in a real way next week. I am hopefully going to be playing Artosis at Tooth and Tail tonight, assuming he gets up in time. Here's a little story for Tooth and Tail. So Artosis, of course, lives in South Korea because he is the English caster for the GSL and the ASL. So he was having problems finding opponents in Tooth and Tail because it hasn't taken off in Korea yet. The devs went into the channel, literally patched the game in the middle of his stream to allow people to search outside of their region, and then said, just restart your game and get the new build and you'll find people. And he did. That was really cool. Awesome. So they should be applauded for that. That was really good. So hopefully going to play with him a little bit later on that. People asking about Shoutcraft Kings. We are hoping, and this is not 100% nailed down yet, the 30th of September for the next $10,000 Shoutcraft Kings King of the Hill tournament. Keep an eye out for future information on that. And of course, the Masked Luchador tournament, probably coming in early October. It's going to be an interesting thing. And I also have another tournament that I haven't announced just yet, which will hopefully I'll talk about in the next few weeks. Yes, Dodger.
I forgot to mention that my coffee line is in pre-sale, and I would love it if you guys would check it out. We sell beans and ground beans and cold brew, and you can find it all at dodgercoffeeco.com. And I'm really proud of it and really excited about it, and I would love if you guys would check it out.
There you go. I think the only thing left to do is tell you who the guest is going to be next week on the 26th of September on the Tuesday, at regular time, 3 p.m. Eastern. That is 8 p.m. British Standard, or British Summer Time, in fact, 9 p.m. Central European Summer Time. And, of course, 12 p.m. on the West Coast of the United States. We're going to have Simon Miller, a former videogamer.com fame, currently working for What Culture, and currently training to be a pro wrestler. Of course. Why not? Why would you not do all those things at the same time?
Way more than force.
Yep.
Yeah, no kidding.
Simon Miller could probably bench press Jesse with with a lot of ease, I think.
Baby.
He can do it. He can bench Jesse. He's going to be on the show next week. That should be very entertaining. He's a very funny dude. So we're going to be having him on, and that should be a great show. That will be on Tuesday, the 26th of September. Simon Miller, formerly of videogamer.com, now on What Culture, for as long as What Culture stays a company, because half of the people just quit today, so I don't know if he's still going to be there next week, but I guess we'll find that out. One way or the other, he'll do fine. He's got his own YouTube channel. He'll land on his feet. All right, that's us done, folks. Thank you very much. A big thanks, of course, again to our sponsor, Audible, for making this episode possible today. Thanks for, once again, tolerating the technical issues that we have on every single goddamn show. That is just the nature of live broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pain in the arse. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.